Chapter 1106. At the same time, the other two roared and circulated their auras to the maximum. Streaks of sharp sword chi circled around the young man, making him look like a sword. On the other hand, streaks of colorful light formed on the woman's body and enveloped her. Courting death? I think you're the ones courting death. Shen Tsung was not afraid of the three seventh-rank powerhouses. Then he stretched out his finger and pointed. Lightning dominates the world. The old man in gray attacked as well. Lightning flashed in the sky and formed a ferocious lightning beast. It charged forward quickly with endless lightning flashing. However, the finger was too sharp. It was like a divine spear that could pierce through everything. In an instant, the sea of lightning that was emitting a terrifying aura was cut open. Then, the finger radiance rushed toward the old man in gray. Boom! There was an earth-shattering sound. The finger radiance hit the old man's body and forced him to retreat. The old man in gray's arm was numb. He kept retreating and spat out a mouthful of blood. Seeing the scene, the surrounding martial artists were all shocked. This is unbelievable. Shen Tsung is only a 7th rank honorable, but he can easily injure cultivators of the same level. This is really incomprehensible. Is this the power of a powerhouse from the House of Kings? It's really terrifying. The cultivators of the same level from the other large sects can't compete with him at all. Didn't you realize that Shen Tsung hasn't even moved his feet after fighting with so many powerhouses for so long? Everyone was shocked. Their scalps were numb, because the power that Shen Tsung had displayed was really terrifying. In front of them, the three powerhouses were fighting fiercely. The momentum was terrifying, and the light shot into the sky. However, in this intense collision, Shen Tsung was like a boulder and a pine tree. He stood steadily in the field and did not move a single step. Boom, boom, boom. In the end, Shen Tsung roared and quickly threw out 3 punches, forcing the 3 7th-rank honorables to retreat. The 3 7th-rank honorables were forced to retreat and fly out. Impossible, I don't believe it. The old man in gray roared ferociously and pretended to be crazy. He could not believe that Lin Fan could fight against 3 7th-rank honorables. One should know that they were in the same level. However, the gap between them was huge. He could not accept this. It wasn't just the gray-robed elder. The other 2 7th-level venerables were similarly shocked. That punch just now was too terrifying. It shook their blood and chi to the point where they were sent flying. Moreover, from the beginning until the end, Shen Tsung hadn't moved a single step. In other words, he hadn't used his full strength when dealing with the 3 of them earlier. Thinking of this, everyone felt their scalps go numb. They looked at the figure with fear. Shen Tsung stood with his hands behind his back. He scanned the surroundings and said in a deep voice, "I've already said that the 3 of you are no match for me. Now that the battle is over, everything in this cave belongs to me. If you're not convinced, we can fight again. Of course, this time I won't be lenient." At the end of his speech, his eyes gradually became sharp, like 2 heavenly blades that cut through the void. There was nothing else in the cave except for a huge engraved stone tablet. This was no ordinary stone tablet. It was left behind by a king. It recorded some peerless martial arts, as well as the precious experiences of kings. It could be said that this was a treasure that could drive countless unbounded laws crazy. However, this precious thing now belonged to Shin Kong. Everyone was indignant, but there was nothing they could do. General Manager Shin smiled faintly and turned to walk towards the cave. However, at this moment, an extremely powerful force surged from afar. This force was extremely terrifying, as if it could destroy the world. What a terrifying force! Who is this? Is a peerless expert coming? Many martial artists were terrified. As for the 3 7th heavenly layer venerables, their faces were solemn as they looked up in shock. That was because that force made them tremble uncontrollably. This kind of situation was very rare, and they would only tremble uncontrollably when facing a king. A king! This is the aura of a king. Impossible! How is this possible? How can a king enter the remote sky mystery realm? Could it be a native king here? The three powerhouses were terrified and couldn't believe it. Shen Tsung stopped, and his expression was extremely grave. All the muscles in his body tensed up, and the spiritual power in his body circulated rapidly. He was extremely nervous. This force was too powerful. It wasn't inferior to his family's ancestor at all. Just as everyone was extremely nervous, a huge black shadow swept across the sky. The wind howled, lightning flashed, and countless black flames danced. The entire void shattered. What exactly is that? When the crowd saw the mountain-like figure, they were all stunned. That figure was so huge that it covered the entire sky. Everywhere it passed, it created a terrifying scene. Moreover, there was an unbearable heat wave in the air. They knew that it was definitely not a human. Demonic beast! There was actually such a terrifying demonic beast here. It looked like it was definitely a king of monsters. At the thought of this, everyone trembled. Fortunately, the king of monsters wasn't coming for them. It didn't stop there at all and flew past quickly. However, when the black flames fell from the sky and landed on the bodies of the martialists, a large number of them were burned to ashes. Instantly, screams were heard. Countless martial artists fled to avoid the black flames that fell from the sky. Shin Tsung frowned. He also swayed his body and quickly dodged the black flames. What kind of demonic beast was it that had such a terrifying flame aura and an ancient, desolate aura? Shen Chang's face was terrifyingly gloomy. He realized that things were a little out of his control. In the previous intelligence, there wasn't such a peerless, demonic beast. In fact, this was just a small episode. Everywhere the heavenly netherbird passed, it created a doomsday scene. Along the way, a large number of mountains and trees were destroyed. Countless demonic beasts died in the disaster. There were even some unlucky humans who died in this disaster. In the depths of the remote heavenly secret realm, there was a huge ancient tree. It was like a huge mountain that pierced through the clouds. Under the ancient tree, there was a tall and straight young man with a cold face. He was fighting with the demonic beasts around him. Those demonic beasts had human faces and beast bodies. Their bodies were emitting green light. As they flapped their wings, they created tornadoes. Countless wind blades filled the entire space and quickly slashed at the cold young man. These demonic beasts were all wind demon beasts. They were very powerful. Each of them was above the sixth heaven of the martial honor realm. The leader was even a powerful demon general that was equivalent to the seventh heaven of the human realm. Humans wouldn't dare to get involved with such a group of terrifying demonic beasts. However, that young man came here and was not afraid of so many demonic beasts. Ocean, abyss, 8 sabers. The young man raised the long saber in his hand and slashed down. Chapter 1107. A blinding saber radiance lit up. An entire space was quickly annihilated. Countless sharp auras filled the air. The surrounding demonic wind beasts cried out in pain as their bodies were all torn in half by the saber. The ground cracked open, and countless cracks extended into the distance. Far behind the ancient tree, there was a blurry figure. He looked at the scene in front of him and muttered to himself, "Yen Feng is indeed an exceptional genius of the Palace of Gods of War. He has reached the seventh heaven honorable realm at such a young age. Moreover, that saber should be the earth-class martial art, 8 sabers of the sea. I didn't expect him to comprehend it to such a level." The blurry figure muttered to himself. His voice was solemn. The young man called Yen Feng killed the surrounding demonic beasts and walked towards the huge ancient tree. According to the map, after passing through the 1,000-year tree demon, I won't be far from the Pine Palace. Yen Feng muttered. As a core disciple of the Palace of Gods of War, and a peerless genius, he knew more information. What was even more fortunate was that he was directly sent to the vicinity of the core area after entering the remote sky secret realm. Therefore, he had the chance to find the Pine Palace. However, in the next moment his body trembled, and he turned around abruptly. His eyes were filled with shock. This was because there was an extremely powerful aura behind him. It was as though a peerless demon was going to destroy the world. Feeling this aura, his body froze. The blood in his body seemed to be frozen, and he could not activate it at all. Suppression. This was absolute suppression. Cold sweat dripped down Yan Feng's face. He did not know who was behind him, but he knew that if the other party wanted to attack, the aura alone could kill him. In the next moment, he turned around and saw Jin Xiumu, who was extremely shocked. A gigantic black, divine bird flew across the sky, bringing with it an endless sea of flames and wild winds. The entire sky was destroyed beyond recognition. As it flapped its wings, the mountains within a radius of 10,000 miles collapsed, turning into water and gravel. This horrifying scene shocked Yan Feng. However, what shocked him even more was that such a powerful demonic beast king seemed to be targeting the Pine Palace as well. Seeing this scene, his expression was extremely ugly. This was because only the Palace of Gods of War knew about the Pine Palace. Other forces did not know about it. Moreover, the location of Deep Pine Hall was extremely mysterious. Ordinary martial artists could not find it at all. If he hadn't been lucky enough to be teleported to the vicinity of Deep Pine Hall, he wouldn't have been able to find it even if he knew about Deep Pine Hall. However, the sudden appearance of this peerless demon disrupted everything. This was because the other party was too obvious and too eye-catching. Wherever they passed, everything was destroyed. Such a large commotion would definitely attract the attention of the other cultivators in the mystic realm. Furthermore, their target was Dark Pine Hall. If someone were to analyze it carefully, they would be able to find out about the existence of Deep Pine Hall. Many martial artists would even act upon hearing the news. At that time, Dark Pine Hall would no longer be a secret. But this is even better. Yan Feng took a deep breath. Originally, I was having a headache because of the powerful restrictive formations in Deep Pine Palace. Now that we have this peerless Yao King, I think we should be able to break through many of the restrictive formations. We might even be able to enter it. Yan Feng's lips curled into a cold smile. Indeed, Deep Pine Hall was the core of the mystic realm. It definitely had powerful defensive formations. With his current strength, it was impossible for him to completely break through these restrictive formations. However, it was different now. With this king-level demonic beast, it would be much easier to break through the restrictive formations in Deep Pine Hall. Thinking of this, he took out a crescent-shaped jade horn from his storage ring and quickly sent a message to it. This was one of the methods the Palace of Gods of War used to transmit information. By transmitting his voice into the jade horn, the inscriptions within would allow the person holding the same jade horn to hear the news. It was very convenient. After sending the message to his companions, Yan Feng's figure flashed and quickly rushed towards Deep Pine Hall. The heavenly netherbird had caused a huge commotion in the mystic realm. In an instant, countless martial artists knew that there was a peerless Yao King in the mystic realm. It was extremely cruel. With a raise of its hand, it could destroy countless mountains. It was extremely cruel, causing thousands of demonic beasts to die in a disaster. However, not everyone thought so. There were a few people who noticed that the Yao King seemed to be impatient and wanted to go somewhere. In fact, many people had already decided to quickly follow and take a look. This was because there would definitely be good things in a place that could move a Yao King. In an instant, the entire hidden sky secret realm was in an uproar. Among them, the calmest were Lin Xian and Zhao Shui. They had long known of the heavenly netherbird's existence and knew where it wanted to go. The two of them continued to follow behind. They were not in a hurry at all. They cultivated as they followed. They were not afraid of losing track because the heavenly netherbird was too domineering. Wherever it went, everything would cease to exist. Lin Xian and Zhao Shui only needed to follow the destroyed areas. As they hurried, Lin Xian discovered that the spiritual energy in the surroundings was getting denser. He knew that they were already close to the core of the mystic realm. Therefore, the following journey was not easy. This was because they often encountered powerful demonic beasts along the way. They also saw many martial artists who had the same goal as them. Of course, their gains along the way were not small. After all, this was the core zone. There were many more treasures here than in the periphery. With Lin Xian and Zhao Shui, together with the Crimson Dragon and the Snow White Monkey, this combination was like a fish in water in the core zone. After walking for another half a day, the two of them stopped to rest and strengthen their cultivation. As they got closer to the core zone, the surroundings became more and more dangerous. Therefore, the two of them had to maintain their physical strength to be able to deal with sudden situations. After finding a safe mountain, the Crimson Dragon set up some formations. Then Lin Xian and Zhao Shui sat down cross-legged and began to regulate their breathing and cultivate. Lin Xian took out the water spirit pearl and used the longevity secret art to absorb the energy inside. At the same time, he comprehended the water-type elements inside to perfect his ice lotus martial soul. In addition to the many treasures in the hidden sky secret realm, the spiritual energy here was also denser than in the outside world. It could be said that cultivating here was definitely twice the result with half the effort. Not long after, Lin Xian had recovered all the spiritual energy he had consumed during the journey. Next, he had to focus on increasing his cultivation. He was now at the 5th heaven of the Venerable Realm and was breaking through to the 6th heaven. He needed an extremely strong accumulation of spiritual energy. What he needed to do now was to absorb the spiritual energy inside the water spirit pearl to increase the thickness of his spiritual energy protection in preparation for breaking through to the 6th heaven of the Venerable Realm. Chapter 1108. Zhao Shui also sat cross-legged and closed her eyes. Her palm formed a strange seal, and an illusory eye appeared behind her. It emitted a strange energy. Zhao Shui was clearly using the void sky eye to absorb the energy within the dragon pearl to strengthen herself. However, she didn't absorb it directly. Instead, she let the void sky eye absorb the energy within the dragon pearl. Not only would this increase her strength, but it would also allow her to break free from the influence of the blood qi within the dragon pearl. The void sky eye began to pulse rhythmically. Every time it pulsed, it would release a powerful aura. Even Lin Xian, who was beside him, was shocked. As expected of a famous ancient cultivation technique, the void sky eye was truly amazing. The fluctuations it produced shocked even Lin Xian. There were very few cultivation techniques that could cause such an effect on him. This was enough to show how extraordinary the void sky eye was. However, this was also what he was worried about. The void sky eye was too strange. He was afraid that Zhao Shui wouldn't be able to control it in the future. Shaking his head, Lin Xian closed his eyes and absorbed the energy within the water spirit pearl again. As he absorbed, his cultivation also increased bit by bit. Half a day later, he opened his eyes and put away the water spirit pearl. He had already reached the upper limit of the amount of energy he could absorb. If he absorbed any more, he wouldn't be able to control it. Now he could use it freely. After absorbing the water spirit pearl's energy, Lin Xian looked at Zhao Shui and saw that she was still cultivating. Thus he began to cultivate. This time he didn't cultivate. Instead, he began to comprehend the blood sword inheritance. Right now, he had 4 martial arts that were his strongest pillars. 2 of them were Earth-class martial arts, Gale Lightning Sword Art and Phantom Demon Steps. The other 2 were King's inheritances. One was the Pil Dao inheritance, left behind by the Niwa of Gojoseon. The other was the Blood Sword inheritance, left behind by the Blood Sword Monarch. Right now, Lin Xian wanted to comprehend the blood sword inheritance. Previously, he had already comprehended the 4th level of the blood sword inheritance. Now, looking at the wretched state around him, he was enlightened once again. Just from the name, one could tell that the blood sword inheritance could only be improved through battle and slaughter. Although Lin Xian hadn't engaged in any fierce battles these days, he had personally witnessed the destruction caused by the heaven nether bird. That kind of devastation was even more terrifying than the battles he had experienced before. With a casual wave of its hand, it could destroy mountains and rivers. Lin Xian took a deep breath. Streaks of blood-red sword aura appeared around him and quickly circled him. The bloodstains on the ground also began to tremble. Finally, they turned into small swords that rapidly shuttled through the air. In the end, countless blood-red swords appeared where Lin Xian was standing, connecting together to form a hellish scene. That terrifying scene caused the remaining demonic beasts in the surroundings to tremble and quickly flee. Boom! Suddenly, the sea of blood surged and quickly split apart. Then, a blood sword pierced through heaven and earth. The blood sword inheritance. Lin Xian was overjoyed. He didn't expect to be able to break through so quickly. It must be because he had witnessed the scene caused by the heaven nether bird. It was too shocking, too terrifying, and left a deep impression on him. That would allow him to quickly break through the blood sword inheritance. When he broke through to the 4th level, Lin Xian comprehended the blood shadow doppelganger. He should be able to obtain a new secret technique when he broke through to the 5th level. Sure enough, a new martial art appeared in his mind. Bloodthirsty Frenzy. To be precise, it was a secret technique that allowed a martial artist to burn their blood essence and obtain power beyond their cultivation for a short period of time. It could be said that it was a life-saving method. Furthermore, this method of burning blood essence was much better than the reckless methods of ordinary martial artists. The purpose of the bloodthirsty frenzy wasn't to injure or kill a martial artist, but to effectively use blood essence to increase one's strength for a short period of time. Therefore, using the bloodthirsty frenzy could allow one to control their blood essence within a reasonable range and ensure that the martial artist wouldn't be harmed. In other words, if Lin Xian used the bloodthirsty frenzy, he would be able to obtain great strength for a short period of time. After that, he would only lose blood essence and would be able to recover by consuming more treasures. His martial arts foundation wouldn't be harmed. This was an extremely powerful method of the blood sword monarch back then. Of course, there was a limit to burning blood essence. If it exceeded the limit of the bloodthirsty frenzy, one's foundation would be harmed. Generally speaking, as long as one didn't use blood essence recklessly, nothing would happen. It could be said that the bloodthirsty frenzy was an extremely good secret technique. After knowing this, Lin Xian smiled. Now, Lin Xian was no different from a 7th level venerable in terms of defense and attack, except for the fact that the quality of his spiritual energy wasn't as thick as a 7th level venerable. With his great dragon sword soul's powerful combat strength, coupled with the bloodthirsty frenzy, he could erupt with power that far exceeded his own for a short period of time. The combination of the two allowed Lin Xian's combat strength to reach an unbelievable level. Moreover, this was only Lin Xian's own strength. If he used the great dragon sword soul or the 10,000 beasting, his strength would be even more powerful. Of course, these two items were his last resort. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he wouldn't use them. After putting all the blood swords back into his body, Lin Xian turned to look at Zhao Shui and realized that she seemed to have stopped cultivating. The two of them rested for a while before setting off again. This time, not only did Lin Xian reap great rewards, but Zhao Shui also reaped great rewards. She exhaled softly, and a smile appeared on her beautiful face. This Dragon Ball was indeed a treasure left behind by a monarch. The energy contained within it was simply too great. After absorbing it for a few days, Her strength had increased significantly. Her virtual sky eye had also become more solid. Previously, the virtual sky eye was still a little blurry. Now it was clearer than before. Moreover, from the energy fluctuations it emitted, it was far stronger than before. This made Zhao Shui very happy. The two of them set off again and continued to pursue the heavenly netherbird. However, this time they didn't walk for long before they felt an intense wave of spiritual energy in front of them. Along with it came the sounds of fierce fighting. Damn it, the people from the Heavenly Bird Palace took the jade Bodhi and the ghost flower. Hurry up and chase. We can't let them escape. Countless angry shouts sounded. Immediately after, a bolt of fiery thunder shot towards Lin Xian like a bolt of lightning. It was very fast, like a flash of lightning. It also carried a hot and violent aura of thunder and fire. Seeing this, Zhao Shui's face darkened. This was because she could naturally see that the purpose of this ray of light was to use her and Lin Xian as a shield to block the pursuers. Obviously, this action angered Zhao Shui. Chapter 1109. With a cold snort, she struck out with her palm. Swoosh! The light flashed very quickly, leaving the people behind her far behind. The owner of the light was a middle-aged man. He originally wanted to use Lin Xian and Zhao Shui's shields, but he did not expect them to attack him. Zhao Shui did not deliberately release her aura before, so the martial artist from the Divine Bird Palace did not know her strength. However, looking at Zhao Shui's young appearance, her cultivation should not be too high. Therefore, seeing Zhao Shui attack at this moment, the middle-aged man from the Divine Bird Palace showed a disdainful smile. However, in the next moment, his pupils shrank and his expression changed drastically. That palm was too terrifying. Not only was the trajectory mysterious, but the energy it contained was even more terrifying. This palm strike could easily kill a sixth heaven honorable martial artist. No matter how high the middle-aged man's cultivation was, he was only a sixth heaven venerable and could not resist such power. Therefore, he gritted his teeth and could only use a secret technique to stimulate the bloodline power in his body to greatly increase his speed, so that he could dodge the terrifying light palm. Fortunately, he was a martial artist from the Divine Bird clan and had the bloodline power of the Divine Bird in his body. Finally, just as the palm of light was about to hit him, he suddenly sped up and narrowly dodged the palm. Swoosh! His body appeared on the other side. The middle-aged martial artist's face was pale, and he breathed a sigh of relief. Then he glared fiercely at Zhao Shui and was about to leave. At this moment, something strange happened again. Around the middle-aged martial artist, the air fluctuated and blood, swords appeared, forming a cage and trapping him. The middle-aged venerable was furious and frantically resisted, but it was to no avail. Not only that, the blood in his body was almost absorbed by these strange blood swords. Seeing this, the middle-aged venerable from the Divine Bird Palace's face darkened. He knew that he had kicked an iron plate this time. Although the two people in front of him were young, their strength was absolutely terrifying. At least they were above him. Both of you, let's talk nicely. Don't fight anymore. Feeling the increasingly terrifying blood aura, the middle-aged man from the Divine Bird Palace was so scared that his scalp went numb. He could only quickly beg for mercy. However, Lin Xian and Zhao Shui did not react at all. Seeing this situation, the middle-aged martial artist was filled with regret. There were so many directions in all directions. Why didn't he go? Why did he have to pick a direction? Initially, he had wanted to use Lin Xian and Zhao Shui as a shield. Now, it seemed that he had overestimated himself. Such a person was not someone he could provoke at all. Which power did these two young men belong to? It was actually so terrifying. That shouldn't be the case. Even if he was a disciple of the House of Kings, he couldn't possibly be so terrifying. The middle-aged warrior from Divine Bird Palace felt his scalp go numb as he kept thinking. You too. I am from the Divine Bird Palace. If you let me go, the Divine Bird Palace will reward you handsomely. In the end, the middle-aged martial artist gritted his teeth and revealed his identity. Divine Bird Palace? Hearing these words, Lin Xian's lips curled into a mocking smile. Seeing the smile on Lin Xian's face, the middle-aged martial artist's heart skipped a beat. He had a bad premonition rising from the bottom of his heart. Lin Gongzi, how do we deal with this guy? Zhao Shui asked coldly. He seems to have 2 good treasures in his hands. Why don't we snatch them? Of course we want the treasures. But since this person is from the Divine Bird Palace, let's just kill him. Lin Xian's voice was cold. He and the Divine Bird Palace were mortal enemies. Now that he saw a martial artist from the other side, he naturally would not show mercy. Hearing Lin Xian's words, the middle-aged martial artist's heart sank to the bottom of the sea. However, he would not sit still and wait for his death. You want to kill me? It's not that easy. The middle-aged martial artist was very decisive. He cut off one of his arms and used a secret technique to form a terrifying explosion of aura. It broke open the blood sword cage formed by Lin Xian. Then the middle-aged man let out a long howl and increased his speed to the extreme. At the same time, he urged the bloodline power in his body to form 2 huge wings behind his back. The wings flapped and carried him quickly to the distance. All this happened in an instant. In the next moment, the middle-aged martial artist had already escaped into the distance. The round hole was about to disappear. It could be said that it was not easy for a 6th-level venerable to escape so far in an instant. However, in front of Lin Xian and Zhao Shui, the middle-aged man was destined to suffer. Zhao Shui snorted coldly and waved her hand. Suddenly, a blurry eye appeared above her and shot out a ray of gray light. It instantly pierced through the middle-aged martial artist. The middle-aged martial artist screamed and fell from the sky, landing heavily on the ground. The martial artists who were chasing behind happened to see this scene and immediately stopped. Their eyes were filled with horror. They had just arrived and saw Zhao Shui kill the middle-aged martial artist from the Divine Bird Palace with a raise of her hand. As for the rest, they did not know at all. However, this scene alone was enough to stun them. One had to know that the other party was an expert from the Divine Bird Palace. Moreover, he was a 6th-level venerable. This kind of person could be said to be extremely powerful. However, he was killed with a raise of her hand. This was unbelievable. The most frightening thing was that the other party was young and looked to be of the younger generation. Lin Xian and Zhao Shui did not pay attention to the martial artists who were chasing after them. The 2 of them began to search for the treasures on the middle-aged martial artist. If they guessed correctly, this middle-aged martial artist should be an elder. He should have many treasures on him. However, Lin Xian searched for a while and sighed slightly. Although the items in the storage ring were indeed treasures in the eyes of others, he was not interested in them at all. He was only a 5th-level venerable, but he had seen too many treasures. Therefore, he did not care about ordinary things at all. However, there were 2 things that piqued his interest. These 2 swords were the 2 treasures that the middle-aged martial artist had just stolen, the jade bodhi and the ghost flower. The jade bodhi was only the size of a walnut. It was crystal clear and shone with a faint light. Lin Xian examined it and found that the jade bodhi had the effect of sobering, calming the mind. It could help the martial artist enter a meditative state. It could help the martial artist maintain a clear mind and not be disturbed by evil spirits. It could be said that it was a treasure that assisted in cultivation. As for the ghost flower Zaci, it was a palm-sized flower with a total of 6 petals. On each of the petals, there was a mysterious pattern. Lin Xian knew that this wasn't carved by someone, but by nature. Moreover, he had seen the ghost flower in the inheritance left behind by the Niwa of Gojoseon. It was a flower that could improve one's soul power. It could be said that it was extremely precious. No wonder the martial artists behind them were chasing after them. Not to mention other things. Just these two treasures were enough to make most of the venerables excited. After Lin Xian figured out the use of these two treasures, he said slowly, Chapter 1110. Miss Zhao, you've been absorbing the energy from the Dragon Ball for the past few days. Although you have the virtual sky eyes, you'll still be affected by the evil energy. This Jade Bodhi can eliminate all evil energy. Now that I'm giving it to you, it can suppress the evil energy in the Dragon Ball. If you have the spectral soul, it can increase soul power. It'll be of great help to my martial soul. Why don't you give it to me? Okay. Zhao Xue nodded when she heard Lin Xian's arrangement. She knew that Lin Xian was thinking for her. In the past few days, she had also sensed that even though she possessed the Void Heaven Eyes, she was still being attacked by some evil aura. If she had the Jade Bodhi, she could suppress the evil energy and increase the speed at which she absorbed the energy from the Dragon Ball. It could be said that this thing was perfect for her. Zhao Xue smiled and hung the Jade Bodhi around her neck. Suddenly, a cool aura was emitted from the Jade Bodhi and entered her body, suppressing the evil energy. Zhao Xue's body trembled, and she felt much more relaxed. Lin Xian smiled when he saw the changes in Zhao Xue. The fact that the other party was able to suppress the evil-killing aura was undoubtedly good news for him. With a smirk, he kept the specter flower in his storage ring. The ghost flower had the effect of increasing one's soul power. It was very useful to him. This ghost flower would allow Lin Xian's soul power to rise to another level. Furthermore, it would further strengthen his great dragon sword soul. However, Lin Xian did not consume it immediately. He wanted to use it when the time was right. Lin Xian and Zhao Xue's actions caused the group of warriors behind them to be unhappy. Suddenly, a cold snort came from behind them. Lin Xian frowned when he heard this. He turned around and looked behind him. Not far behind, there was a group of warriors. Their faces were gloomy and filled with murderous intent. At the very front of these people stood two figures. Clearly, these two people were the leaders of these people. Who are you? What are you doing here? Zhao Xue asked coldly. Hearing this, the faces of those martial artists became even gloomier. The woman in the lead snorted coldly and quickly said, We are the Li family, one of the 8 great families under Prince Lingfeng. May I know who you are? This woman was called Li Jia, and she was the most outstanding successor of the Li family's younger generation. Her cultivation had already reached the 6th heavenly layer of the Venerable Realm. Isn't it a little inappropriate for the two of you to take away our things without saying a word? At this moment, another person beside the Li family spoke. It was a bald young man who had also reached the 6th heaven of the Honorable Realm. And who are you? Lin Xian asked with a frown. I am Sun Tao, a disciple of the Sun family, a subordinate of Prince Lingfeng. He was indeed a member of the Sun family, and was also the most outstanding disciple of the Sun family. Originally, the two families had discovered a ruin here and found 2 treasures, the Jade Bodhi and the Ghost Flower, but they did not expect that the hidden divine bird palace martial artists would snatch them away. Therefore, they tried their best to chase after them, and what happened next was the scene that Lin Xian and the rest encountered. These people from the 8 great families did not expect Lin Xian and Zhao Xian to be so fierce. They killed the martial artists of the Divine Bird Palace in an instant and divided the treasures among them. How could they tolerate such a thing? After all, those 2 treasures were extremely precious. Although they were shocked by the strength of Lin Xian and Zhao Xue, they had the advantage in numbers, so if a fight really broke out, they were not afraid. What 8 great families? I've never heard of them. Zhao Xue said unhappily, These things are our spoils of war. When did they become yours? Humph, Those people from the Divine Bird Palace snatched our things. Of course they are ours. Li Jia gritted her teeth and said, Snatched? Zhao Shui sneered. How dare you say that the things that were snatched belong to you? Ridiculous. Without us, those people from the Divine Bird Palace would have escaped long ago. Do you think that with your strength you can catch up with them? So, I advise you to get lost quickly. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. The other martial artists might be intimidated by their reputation, but it had no effect on Zhao Shui at all. Hearing Zhao Shui's words, the disciples of the two families trembled with anger. They looked at Zhao Shui one by one, wanting to kill her. They were too angry. After all, their families were the strongest under Prince Ling Feng, and no one dared to look down on them. But now, someone dared to scold them, and they could not tolerate it. The bald young man, Sun Tao, stared at Lin Xian and said coldly, Boy, you'd better persuade your companions to obediently hand over the things in your hands, and I won't make things difficult for you. Otherwise, you know the consequences. Although they were very angry, they did not want to act rashly. After all, there was danger at any time in the secret territory, so they tried not to act if they could. Moreover, they wanted to use their reputation and strength to intimidate the other party, so that they would obediently hand over the things in their hands. However, it was obvious that he had found the wrong person. When Lin Xian heard the bald man's warning, he sneered. My companions have a good temper, and they only asked you to scram. If you anger me, I'll kill you immediately. So you'd better scram. Lin Xian's words stunned the people on the other side. They did not expect that someone would dare to threaten them. How many years had it been since something like this happened? Where did this boy come from? How dare he boast so shamelessly, and even say that he wants to kill us? He's courting death. Did you come from the mountains? Don't you know that we are the 8 great families? You have to know that we are the most powerful family under young Master Ling Feng. Boy, didn't your elders tell you before you left? That's right. How dare he look down on us? I'll cut him into 8 pieces later. The martial artist shouted angrily. Lin Xian's eyes were cold. Then he flicked his finger and countless blood-red sword auras flew out from between his fingers, piercing through the martial artists who had spoken arrogantly. Poof! 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 Instantly, a bloody hole appeared between the eyebrows of the martial artists who had cursed the most fiercely, and their bodies fell weakly to the ground. Seeing this, everyone's pupils shrank, and their eyes were filled with horror. Sun Tao and Li Jia, who were leading the group, were especially shocked. This was because they knew that the disciples they had brought with them were the elite disciples of their families, and they were extremely powerful. However, the other party had killed all of them with just a flick of his finger. Wasn't this method a little too terrifying? Boy, how dare you kill our people? Are you tired of living? Sun Tao gritted his teeth and said, Humph, I even dared to kill Lu Yil, let alone you. Lin Xian showed a trace of disdain. What? Kill Lu Yil? Hearing this, Sun Tao and the beautiful woman were stunned. Then they seemed to have thought of something, and their faces changed. Chapter 11:11. They pointed at Lin Xian as their bodies trembled. You're that Lin Xian? That's right. That's me. Lin Xian said proudly. When these words were spoken, everyone was in an uproar. They all looked forward, their expressions shaken. They weren't unfamiliar with this name because they'd received an order earlier that if they encountered Lin Xian in the hidden sky realm, they were to immediately kill him without mercy and leave no one alive. Not because of anything else, but because the other party had killed Lu Lai. Lu Yil was just like them. He was a genius disciple of the 8 great families. However, Prince Ling Feng valued Lu Yil's sister, and she had become the young master's woman. Therefore, the Ryu family's status had risen, and Lu Yil's status was even more honorable. Moreover, the kill order had been issued by Lu Yil's sister, Lu Mei. However, They did not expect to meet Lin Xian here. Brat, I didn't expect to meet you here. Since you dared to kill Lu Yil, you're dead meat. I advise you to give up. Perhaps you'll die a quick death. Otherwise, you won't have a good ending if you offend the young master. The flirtatious woman sneered. Did you know that the kill order was issued by Lu Mei? She's the young master's woman. Do you think you can escape? Li Jia was very confident because no one who offended Prince Ling Feng could survive. Lin Xian was no exception. She was just a woman. There was nothing to be afraid of. Lin Xian shook his head slightly. He was not bothered. Indeed, he was not bothered. Now that his strength had increased greatly, he would not be afraid even if he faced a 7th-level honorable. Moreover, this was only the beginning. If he could obtain even more treasures, his strength would increase again. At that time, he wouldn't care about young Master Ling Feng anymore. You're boasting shamelessly. Today, I'll take your life. If we get your head, we'll definitely be rewarded greatly. So you can die in peace. Attack! The bald man, Sun Tao, also shouted coldly. Then his body released a powerful aura. With a flick of his finger, a high-quality sword appeared in his hand. As he waved his arm, the long sword vibrated and emitted a dazzling light. In an instant, a sharp sword qi slashed forward. Do you need help? Zhao Shui asked. No need, it's just a few small fries. Lin Xian shook his head slightly. It just so happened that he had recently increased his strength and hadn't fought yet. Now was a good time to use them as practice. As Lin Xian chatted with Zhao Shui, he clenched his fist and countless rays of blood-red light gathered to form a blood-red sword. The sword expanded rapidly and slashed out fiercely. As soon as the blood-red longsword appeared, the void trembled, and an endless murderous aura filled the air. A bright red sword light blossomed like a long river of blood, making one's scalp go numb. Facing Sun Tao, Lin Xian didn't take out a weapon at all. He only used his spirit power to condense a sword qi. However, this sword was too terrifying. Bang! In the next moment, the two sword lights collided in the air and let out a deafening sound. Then, in front of everyone's shocked eyes, Sun Tao's long sword flew out of his hand, and he spat out blood as if he had suffered a heavy blow. What? How is this possible? Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned. As for Li Jia, she screamed with a face full of disbelief. That was because Sun Tao's strength was similar to hers. They were both 6th heaven venerables. Such strength could be said to be extremely powerful among the younger generation. Even some of the older generation weren't a match for them. However, Sun Tao was defeated in a single move. Moreover, it was a crushing defeat. She couldn't believe it. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. This must be a coincidence. Li Jia shook her head and her eyes were filled with disbelief. She bit her lip so hard that it almost tore. In the next moment, she made up her mind and quickly attacked. Careless. Sun Tao must have been careless. That's why this kid succeeded. I'll go all out this time. I don't believe that kid can block it. He's just a 5th heaven venerable's kid. How strong can he be? Li Jia quickly calmed down, and a ferocious smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. She had already seen Lin Xian's cultivation. He was only a 5th heaven venerable's. Moreover, she believed that Sun Tao must have been careless just now. That was why his opponent succeeded. However, this time, she wouldn't be careless. Die, brat! Li Jia quickly waved her palms, and palm shadows flickered in the air. They connected and imprinted in the void. Immediately, the world trembled, and the sound of mountains collapsing erupted in the void. Then, a terrifying force quickly surged out and pressed down on Lin Xian. The force was too terrifying. It was as if a tyrannosaurus was rampaging in the palace, causing the entire sky to tremble. One had to admit that Li Jia was very strong. She was definitely a top existence among the younger generation. Even the older generation was inferior to her. However, it was a pity that she met Lin Xian, who was even stronger and more monstrous than her. Looking at the shocking palm shadows, Lin Xian was expressionless. Then he raised his arm and countless blood-red sword qi revolved around his palm. They quickly intertwined and formed a huge blood-red cauldron. The huge cauldron was completely formed by sword qi. It emitted a red light as if there was blood flowing on it. Accompanying it was an unusually fierce aura and a thick murderous aura. In the next moment, Lin Xian threw out the blood-red sword cauldron in his hand. Rumble! As soon as the blood-red sword cauldron appeared, the void trembled as if it would collapse at any time. The blood-red light even dyed the entire sky red. In the next moment, the blood-red sword cauldron quickly shuttled through the air and collided with the palm shadows that filled the sky. In the blink of an eye, the two collided. However, the shocking thing was that the collision didn't stop at all. In the next moment, the blood-red sword cauldron directly tore apart the palm shadows that filled the sky and crashed towards Li Jia with an even more terrifying momentum. What? That's impossible! Seeing this scene, Li Jia finally screamed in horror. She couldn't believe that the palm shadows that she had unleashed with all her might had been easily torn apart by Lin Xian as if they were paper. This was completely beyond her understanding. However, just as she was in a daze, the blood-red sword cauldron ruthlessly struck her body and sent her flying. Uft! Li Jia was sent flying like a kite with a broken string. At the same time, she continuously vomited blood and was severely injured. 2 moves. In just 2 moves, Lin Xian was severely injured like 2 6th-level supremacies. This scene stunned the remaining cultivators. That was a 6th-level supremacies. They were extremely powerful existences. However, they were sent flying like flies. They couldn't believe it at all. No, that's impossible. I don't believe it. Brother Sun Tao and Sister Li Jia are the most powerful existences in our younger generation. How could they lose? Damn it. Who exactly is this kid? How can he be so powerful? Is he really from the younger generation? Why do I feel like he's a peerless old monster? This kid is too powerful. Should we run? When the disciples of the Sun family and Li family saw this scene, they trembled in fear. Chapter 11-12. On the other side, Lin Xian stopped in satisfaction. To be honest, the power of the blood-red sword qi had exceeded his expectations. Although he knew that it would not be difficult for him to defeat a 6th-level honorable, he was still excited when he actually sent a 6th-level honorable flying. That was a 6th-level honorable. Not long ago, he was still in existence that he could only look up to. Now he could send a 6th-level honorable flying with a raise of his hand. This kind of huge improvement made him feel proud and lofty. Lin Xian glanced at the severely injured Li Jia and Sun Tao and shook his head slightly. He didn't kill him, but thinking about it, with the other party's injuries, it was impossible for him to pose any threat to him. As for the remaining martial artists, he would not attack them because they were not worthy of his attention. However, he still had a few questions to ask. This jade Bodhi and ghost flower, where did you get them? Lin Xian stared at a disciple in front of him and asked in a low voice. There's a cave in front. It should have been left behind by a powerful martial artist. The disciple trembled as he forced himself to speak. He was extremely afraid that Lin Xian would kill him in a fit of anger. Fortunately, Lin Xian only asked a few questions and did not attack him. After finding out where the 2 treasures had been unearthed, Lin Xian and Zhao Shui left the place and headed towards the mysterious cave. Seeing Lin Xian and Zhao Shui leave, the disciples of the Sun family and Li family turned pale. What should we do? Are we going to let them go just like that? What can we do? Didn't you see that Brother Sun Tao and Sister Li Jia are injured? We are no match for them. Damn it, I can't accept this. Don't worry, that kid will be unlucky. Looking at his questions just now, he must not have given up. I think he must have gone to the mysterious cave. Given their personalities, they'll definitely covet those treasures when the time comes. However, there are people from the Morong family in the cave. When the time comes, there will definitely be a conflict between the two parties. No matter how strong that kid is, he can't beat the Morong family. Therefore, he will be unlucky soon. Really? If that's the case, that would be great. I really want to see how this kid will react when he is defeated by the Morong family. The group of disciples sneered. In the end, they quickly ran forward and helped Sun Tao and Li Jia up. Sister Li Jia, how are you? Brother Sun Tao, don't scare me. A group of people ran forward and looked at Sun Tao and Li Jia worriedly. Their storage rings had already been taken away, so they could only take the pills from the disciples next to them and quickly swallow them. It was only after a long time that the two of them regained their color. However, there was still a trace of fear in their eyes. Sun Tao, in particular, had a very ugly expression. As a genius disciple of the Sun family, he was usually proud and arrogant, not putting anyone in his eyes. Even in the face of an elder, he was not afraid. But now he was actually defeated in a single move. That blood-red sword chi was too terrifying, and he still had lingering fears. Don't provoke him anymore. This kid's sword chi is the sharpest I have ever seen. We're no match for him at all. Therefore, the matter of hunting him down should be left to the people of the Lu clan. Hearing this, everyone was shocked. Sun Tao was also a swordsman, and his swordsmanship was very sharp. Even the elders admitted that they were not as good as him. However, such a genius actually admitted that he was not as good as someone else. They had never seen such a situation before. One had to know that Sun Tao was very conceited. No matter how strong he is, I'm afraid that he can't be compared to the people from the deity Sword Villa. After all, that is the sect with the strongest swordsmanship in the continent. Just wait, the people from the deity Sword Villa are also in that cave. A disciple sneered. Indeed, the deity Sword Villa is the sect with the strongest swordsmanship in the Tianwu continent. They are also known as the sect that is closest to the House of Kings. I have also fought with the people from the deity Sword Villa. They are extremely sharp and far surpass their peers. However, I feel that they are not as good as Lin Xian. What? Even the people from the deity Sword Villa are not as good as Lin Xian? How is that possible? Li Jia screamed at the side. Although I don't want to admit it, it is the truth. When Li Jia heard this, her face turned pale. Then she snorted. Humph! Let the people from the Morong family take care of this kid. Lin Xian and Zhao Shui did not know what these people were thinking. The two of them flew forward and arrived near the mysterious cave. Lin Xian extended his soul power and sensed it. Then he frowned. The cave was huge, as if a city had been built in the mountain. Judging from the situation inside, it should have been a cave of an ancient elite. However, it had become a ruin. In the cave, there were countless figures fighting and fighting fiercely. With so many people, there must be a lot of treasures. Lin Xian smiled. He and Zhao Shui looked at each other and smiled. Then, their bodies flashed and they flew into the cave. As soon as they entered the cave, they encountered a fierce battle. A group of people surrounded a piece of black metal and fought fiercely. Get lost. We have taken over this place. Why? We found the dark thunderwood first. Another group of people was not convinced. Why? Because we are Prince Ling Feng's subordinates. This voice was very arrogant. When they heard the other party's voice, the martial artists who were clamoring shrank their heads, and fear appeared in their eyes. Prince Ling Feng's strength was well known in the mainland. They did not expect that these people were Prince Ling Feng's subordinates. So what if he is Prince Ling Feng? We are Prince Annel's men. At this time, another force joined in. They were very strong and were not afraid of Prince Ling Feng's forces. Prince Annel was one of the 4 Tianwu princes. He was also an existence that could summon wind and rain in the mainland. Therefore, these people had nothing to fear. When they heard this, the people who first found the dark Thunderwood quietly retreated. Whether it was Prince Lingfeng or Prince Anil, they were not people they could fight against. These two forces were at odds with each other. Their strength and status were similar. No one was willing to give way. It seemed that a great battle was about to break out. However, at this time, a light flashed and the dark Thunderwood that was in the center of the crowd suddenly disappeared. What? It disappeared. Disappeared? How is that possible? It must be you guys who did it. Prince Ling Feng's men shouted. We did it. Why do I feel like you guys stole it? Prince Enel's men were also anxious. The two forces fought and then started fighting. The instigator, the snow-white little monkey, had already left. Zhao Shui looked at the snow-white little monkey in surprise. To be exact, she looked at the small broken bowl in its hand. She did not expect this small bowl to have such a magical function. However, in the next moment, she smiled faintly and quickly used her void sky eyes. Chapter 11:13. Zhao Shui smiled and quickly activated her virtual sky eye. Above his head, an illusory eye appeared. Within that eye, a faint golden vortex rapidly formed. In the next moment, the vortex emitted a faint golden light as if it was sucking in something. Then, a scream suddenly came from not far away. Damn it! Who stole my treasure? That's an earth crystal you're talking about. It can't be formed without a few thousand years. The voice was heart-wrenching and was obviously extremely angry. However, Zhao Shui smiled faintly and waved her hand. A blue crystal flew out of the virtual sky eye's eye socket and landed in her hand. Earth crystal. Lin Xian was also extremely surprised when he saw this scene. He didn't expect Zhao Shui's virtual sky eye to have such a magical ability. This ability was almost identical to the little white monkey's. The snow-white little monkey hugged the broken bowl and whimpered with an unconvinced look on its face. Zhao Shui said calmly, "Don't be surprised. This isn't sucking it out of thin air. It's just using a strong attractive force to quickly pull the surrounding objects over. This method is convenient, but not secretive. It can't be compared to the little white monkey's bowl." Hearing Zhao Shui's words, the little white monkey whimpered and smiled. Lin Xian also nodded slightly and heaved a sigh of relief. So that's how it is. It can't be sucked out of thin air. It's just using a strong attractive force. However, even so, it's still very shocking. As expected of the virtual sky eye, it's really mysterious. Damn it, it's the two of you. How dare you steal my earth crystal? In front of them, a young man in armor rushed towards the two with a ferocious expression. Seeing the man in front of them, Zhao Shui was expressionless. Lin Xian's mouth twitched slightly. He finally knew the difference between Zhao Shui and the little white monkey. When the little white monkey used the bowl to steal, it was done secretly. No one knew and no one noticed. However, Zhao Shui was different. She was openly stealing. This kind of method was easily discovered by others. However, Lin Xian and Zhao Shui were not going to sit there and wait for their deaths. The two of them used their movement skills and quickly left the place. At the back, when the armored young man saw his opponent's terrifying movement technique, he was instantly infuriated and roared furiously. That was because the other party's movement technique was too strange. In fact, it was much stronger than his. Even if he chased after the other party, he might not be able to capture the other party. Furthermore, there were many treasures here. He couldn't bear to leave. Therefore, he could only angrily attack in all directions, destroying everything around him to vent the anger in his heart. When the surrounding martial artists saw this scene, they were also extremely shocked. Not long ago, many rare metal materials were discovered in this area. All the major powers were vying for supremacy. The armored youth was an elite disciple of the Shun family. That armored youth had used his tyrannical strength to force back his opponent. Just as he was about to obtain the earth crystal, he hadn't expected that it would be snatched away at the most critical moment. Moreover, they didn't even know who had done it. This kind of audacious behavior and mysterious identity was really too shocking. Furthermore, what surprised them even more was that the other party had actually managed to snatch the earth crystal from the hands of the elite disciple of the Shin family. Furthermore, they had even left safely. This was simply too unbelievable. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Many figures flew over to the armored youth's side and quickly consoled him. "Brother Hua, you must find those two brats," the armored youth said to another tall figure. The tall young man also said coldly, "Don't worry, I will help you get this thing back." His gaze was cold as he looked ahead, his eyes filled with a piercing, killing intent. Lin Xian and Zhao Shui hadn't gone far. The two of them had only avoided the sole detection of the crowd and were hiding in the dark. At this moment, when they heard the words of the group of people in front of them, they frowned. "I didn't expect them to be disciples of the Shun family," Lin Xian muttered. However, Zhao Shui snorted coldly. "Who cares if they are from the Shen family or the Wang family? If they want to kill me behind my back, they are dead meat." When Lin Xian saw Zhao Shui's cold expression, he shook his head slightly. Zhao Shui wasn't so fierce in the past. However, it was impossible to kill these disciples of the Qin family. If they did so, it was very likely that they would be pursued by the elders of the Qin family with all their might. This was something that would not be worth it for them. Hence, Lin Xian said slowly, "Wouldn't it be too easy to kill them?" "Oh, you have other ideas?" Zhao Shui turned around and glanced at Lin Xian. "Of course. This group of people must have found some treasure nearby. We will follow them secretly and wait for them to break the restrictions before we snatch it. I think this feeling is worse than killing them when the treasure is already in our hands." When she heard Lin Xian's suggestion, Zhao Shui was also very surprised. She said in surprise, "It seems like you don't have a good relationship with this faction. However, I like your suggestion." The two of them reached a consensus and continued to hide in the dark. Lin Xian had the Etian technique to hide his aura and body, so he wasn't afraid of being discovered. Zhao Shui's void eye also emitted a faint golden light that enveloped Zhao Shui's graceful body, isolating her from all soul detection. The two of them were like ghosts in a black hole, hiding around the disciples of the Shin family. During this time, many warriors came, but they were quickly chased away by the disciples of the Shen family. It was obvious that they wanted to monopolize this place. After chasing away the other factions, the disciples of the Shin family didn't immediately take action. Instead, they waited quietly as if they were waiting for someone. Soon, a group of people came from afar. This group had about 20 to 30 people, including a few elders. When this group of people appeared, the disciples of the Shun family cheered. It was obvious that this was the group they were waiting for. "Elders, you are finally here," the tall youth Xinhua said. "Master Hua, let's start." An elder's eyes lit up. "After our investigation, this place should be a treasury. However, this treasury is sealed by a powerful restriction, which is very difficult to break. However, from the scattered earth crystals and other things, there are definitely many precious items in here. Therefore, I think it is necessary to break the seal." After hearing Shen Hua's information, the elders were excited. "In that case, let's break the seal." Then a few elders and young, outstanding disciples gathered together and prepared to break the seal. As for the weaker disciples, they formed a defensive circle outside to prevent other factions from interfering. Bang! 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 The deafening sound echoed throughout the cave, attracting many warriors to investigate. Chapter 11:14. However, these warriors were all chased away by the outer disciples of the Shen family. No one was able to break through their defense. However, although the surrounding warriors were repelled, they did not leave. Instead, they lingered around the periphery, watching everything nervously. This place is definitely not simple if so many masters from the Shin family are involved. Yes, it is said that this is a treasure trove. Just the things scattered outside are earth crystals. You can imagine how precious the things inside are. Hearing this, many people sucked in a breath of cold air, their eyes filled with greed. However, soon someone sighed and said, "So what if the treasures are good? This place is occupied by the Shin family. No one else can get their hands on it. Yes, look at the Shin family. They have completely isolated the other forces. When the time comes, I'm afraid they won't even have a chance to get a share." Many people shook their heads and sighed with disappointment. However, more people were still lingering around, waiting for an opportunity. Lin Xian and Zhao Shui were hiding in the dark. However, when they heard the discussions of the surrounding warriors, they smiled. "Originally, I just wanted to snatch some of the treasures in their hands. I didn't expect to see such a big fish." Zhao Shui's face was full of smiles. Lin Xian was also pleasantly surprised. It seemed that God was treating them well. Judging from the strength of the restriction, this was definitely a precious treasure trove. This kind of restriction was extremely strong. Other forces might not be able to break it. Even Lin Xian would need a lot of time to break it with the Crimson Dragon. However, now that the Shun family was helping them, they only needed to wait for the fruits of victory. Sure enough, after half a day, there was a sudden burst of laughter in front of them. "Ha ha ha ha, it's finally broken. It's really a treasure trove. We didn't waste our energy." A few of the older generation figures looked up to the sky and laughed happily. The tall young man, Shenhua, was also excited. His eyes shone brightly. The treasures inside were too precious. Every one of them was above the earth crystals. "Hey, this is a fragment of an earth-class treasure. I didn't expect to see it here." An old man exclaimed, "Damn, there's a shield that's half an earth-step treasure. That's nothing. I even found a few top-grade materials. These materials can be used to refine earth-tier treasures." Cries of surprise could be heard. Obviously, the items in the treasury were so shocking that the disciples of the Shen family couldn't help but scream. When the people outside heard these shouts, their hearts trembled, and their gazes became extremely fiery. This was because every item in the treasury was a rare treasure that could cause people to fight for it until their heads bled. Immediately, a few martial artists were blinded by greed and rushed forward as if they had gone mad. "How dare you steal from our Shin family's territory? You're courting death." A disciple of the Shun family sneered. Then the disciple of the Shun family pulled out the long saber at his waist and swung it violently. Whoosh! A blazing ray of light swallowed and spat out, quickly slashing down from the sky. What followed was the roar of thunder and lightning. Bang, bang! The few martial artists who rushed up to seize the treasure were chopped into two halves by the saber. Blood dyed the ground red, and the pungent smell of blood permeated the air. This scene was like a basin of cold water that directly woke the surrounding martial artists up. Everyone's eyes regained clarity, and they looked forward with lingering fear. It was too terrifying. If they had been blinded and rushed forward, they would have ended up like those people and become corpses. Thinking of this, everyone trembled and kept retreating, their eyes filled with fear. There was no other way. Although the treasures in front of them were good, they had to be alive to enjoy them. In front of the House of Kings, like the Shun family, no one dared to snatch the treasures. However, just because these martial artists didn't dare to, it didn't mean that others didn't dare to. In the next moment, Lin Xian and Zhao Shui, who were hiding in the dark, moved. The snow-white little monkey hugged the small, worn-out bowl and began to exert force to snatch it. The virtual sky eye above Zhao Shui's head also emitted a faint golden light. Soon, an angry roar came from the treasury in front of them. "Damn it! Who stole my top-grade refining materials? The voice belonged to an old man. It was very old, and it contained a heaven-shaking fury. The terrifying sound waves were like thunder, exploding in the surroundings. This elder was about to go crazy. As soon as he entered the treasury, he set his eyes on those top-grade refining materials and wanted to get his hands on them. However, just as he stepped forward, and before he could do anything, those top-grade materials disappeared before his eyes. When he saw this scene, he went completely mad. That was a top-grade equipment refinement material, something that couldn't be found in the outside world at all. However, the things that originally belonged to him had disappeared before his eyes. How could he not go crazy? Damn it! Who dared to snatch my treasures? Get out here! The elder roared crazily. The sound waves were like waves, shaking the surrounding martial artists and making them unable to stand steadily. The surrounding martial artists were horrified. They didn't think that someone would really dare to snatch the treasures and even succeed. Damn it! Who dared to snatch the Shun family's things? Does he want to die? Yeah, he's too bold. That's a 7th level venerable. He snatched the treasures from such a powerhouse and even succeeded. This is unbelievable. It seems that the person who snatched the treasures isn't an ordinary person. Otherwise, he wouldn't have succeeded. The crowd discussed animatedly and were extremely shocked. They didn't think that such a powerful person would come to the cave and directly ignore the Shin family. However, before they could finish their discussion, a furious roar came from the treasury in front of them again. Oh no! My Earth-rank artifact fragment. Damn! Who dared to touch my half-Earth-rank artifact? Angry roars came one after another. The entire Shin family was furious. Angry, they were really too angry. Their Shin family was the House of Kings, a high and mighty existence. Normally, no one dared to provoke them. However, now, someone dared to snatch their things, and it wasn't just once. This wasn't just a slap to their faces. This was simply snatching their lifeblood. One had to know that the items in the treasury were extremely precious. Every item could cause a commotion in the Tianmu continent. However, at this moment, they had all been taken away. What was worse was that they didn't find any traces of the other party. They didn't even know who the other party was. This was embarrassing. If word got out, they would probably be laughed at. Of course, it wasn't that everyone didn't find out. Among them, there were a few elders who found traces of the treasures being snatched. Instantly, they turned around angrily and stared into the distance. Actually, this was very normal. These people definitely wouldn't find out when the little white monkey snatched the treasures. However, Zhao Shui was different. She was snatching in the open, so it was normal for these people to find out. You still want to run? Stay here. Chapter 11:15. You still want to run? Stay here. An elder was enraged. He stretched out his huge palm and grabbed in front of him. The huge palm in the air became bigger and bigger, making crashing sounds. It was like a huge mountain, pressing down in all directions. The surrounding people were shocked. This power was too terrifying. Even a 6th heaven honorable would be smashed to pieces if they encountered it. There was no way to defend against it. It's over. The person who snatched the treasure is in trouble. Not only is he in trouble, but he has also angered the Shin family. He has also been caught. I think he will end up in a miserable state. Sigh, they're indeed from the Shin family. They found the enemy so quickly. They are indeed powerful. The group of people shook their heads and sighed. The Shun family was too domineering. They had sealed the entire treasury and taken it for themselves. This made the surrounding martial artists unhappy. However, they did not dare to show it. Now that someone had dared to snatch something from the Shun family and humiliate the Shin family, they were very happy. However, it seemed like that person was going to play. The young disciples of the Shin family were smug and sneered. How dare he snatch something from the Shin family? He is courting death. Humph, when we catch him later, I will definitely cut him into pieces. I will let him know the consequences of offending the Shen family. The words of these disciples made the surrounding martial artists tremble. Indeed, offending the Shin family would result in a miserable state. In the sky, the huge palm was shining brightly. It carried the power of wind and thunder as it slammed forward. In an instant, the area where Zhao Shui was covered. Rumble. Under the huge palm of light, everything in front of it was turned into ashes. In the ruins, two figures appeared in front of the crowd like lightning. As soon as these two figures appeared, everyone was stunned. Even the martial artists of the Shen family widened their eyes in disbelief, because these two figures were too young. They were a man and a woman. They were at most 20 years old. The man was wearing a green robe and carrying an ancient sword. He was tall and handsome. The woman was dressed in white and looked like a fairy. Her beautiful face was filled with boundless coldness. So young? How is this possible? Impossible, it can't be them. I'm afraid the real culprit has already escaped. And these two young men are probably scapegoats. Sure enough, this is the case. Sigh, these two young people are really unlucky. They were pushed into the abyss at such a young age. The surrounding people shook their heads and sighed. In their opinion, it was impossible for such a young person to steal from the Shen family. Even the Shen family's elders shouted coldly, "Speak, where did that thief go? If you can come clean, I might let you go. Otherwise, you'll end up in a miserable state." The disciples of the Shen family quickly surrounded Lin Xian and Zhao Shui. Their eyes were filled with hostility. From their point of view, even if Lin Xian and Zhao Shui were the thieves, they were still the thieves' accomplices. Therefore, they would not let him go. However, Zhao Shui said coldly, "Old man, I only took a few treasures. Do you have to be so anxious? Furthermore, these treasures were left behind by an ancient master. They don't belong to your family. So what if I took them?" At the side, Lin Xian did not speak. However, he silently stole another treasure from the treasury. It's them. Those thieves are actually them. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked. From their point of view, the person who secretly took action must be a peerless old monster with an extremely high cultivation level. Only such a person would not be afraid of the Shen family, the House of Kings. However, they did not expect that the culprit was actually two young men. This was really unbelievable. The martial artists of the Shin family were also shocked. The scene in front of them was completely different from what they had expected. This caused their minds to go blank. However, they quickly reacted. They quickly pulled out their swords and pointed them at Lin Xian and Zhao Shui. "Young man, hurry up and hand over the treasures you stole. Otherwise, you're dead meat. How dare you steal from the Shen family? You must have eaten a bear's heart and leopard's guts. Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you have some dirty tricks. In the face of absolute strength, you are nothing." The elder of the Shen family shouted coldly. From his point of view, Lin Xian and Zhao Shui must have some kind of secret technique that allowed them to steal the treasures silently. As for their strength, he directly ignored it. The two of them were so young. Even if they were strong, what could they do? Not only did they have the elites of the younger generation in the family, but they also had the experts of the older generation. Therefore, they were not afraid of anyone. The tall young man, Shenhua, looked at Lin Xian and Zhao Shui with a gloomy expression. In the end, he said coldly, "Why are you wasting your breath on them? Capture them and take back all the treasures. Also, find out what method they used to steal our treasures." The tall young man's voice was unusually cold. It was obvious that he did not care about the life and death of Lin Xian and Zhao Shui. "Men, capture them." The tall young man, Shenhua, and the elders looked at each other coldly. There was no need for them to do anything in this situation. The one who gave the order was the young man in armor. He looked at Lin Xian and Zhao Shui with a ferocious voice. This was because he now knew that his earth crystal had been stolen by the two of them. As soon as he finished speaking, more than 10 disciples of the Shen family rushed forward and slashed their swords and sabers. Suddenly, a large amount of sword qi and saber radiance flew out and slashed towards Lin Xian and Zhao Shui. This scene was too terrifying. The power was enough to injure a 6th heaven venerable expert. Spiritual energy surged and the entire void trembled. Zhao Shui snorted coldly and waved her jade-like hand. Suddenly, an even more violent and vast power surged out from her palm and swept in all directions. Lin Xian also flicked his finger slightly. Streaks of blood-red sword qi expanded in the wind and roared in the air like blood-red dragons. The sky was turbulent and the sword qi was threatening. Numerous energies collided in the air and exploded with a destructive aura. In the next moment, more than 10 disciples of the Shen family were sent flying as if they had been struck by lightning. They vomited blood. Lin Xian and Zhao Shui had their hands behind their backs. They looked cold and arrogant as they stood in the field. Their eyes were like lightning as they looked around disdainfully. It was as if they did not care about the experts in the world. What? How is this possible? Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned. Their mouths were wide open, and their eyeballs almost fell to the ground. They could not believe that the 2 young men and women in front of them could injure more than 10 disciples of the Shin family. This was something that could not even happen in their dreams. One had to know that those martial artists were disciples of the House of Kings. Being able to enter the remote sky secret realm meant that they were not weak. Moreover, with so many of them joining forces, even the elders would have a headache. However, they were sent flying with a single move. The martial artists of the Shen family were even more shocked. Their expressions were strange, as if they had seen a ghost. Chapter 1116. The seniors frowned as they stared at the 2 figures in front of them with flickering eyes. On the other hand, Shen Hua's face darkened. As disciples of the House of Kings, they had always been revered by others. No one had ever dared to disobey them, let alone injure them. Yet now, someone had actually disregarded their status and injured them in front of so many people. This was a direct slap to their faces. As members of the House of Kings, if they could not resolve this matter, they would be too ashamed to continue living. With a cold snort, Shenhua took a step forward and was about to attack. However, at that moment, a black-robed old man beside him stepped forward and stopped Shenhua. "Young Master Hua, there's no need for you to do this. Let me do it. Then I'll have to trouble you, elder." Shenhua withdrew his foot and said in a deep voice. In terms of strength, Shenhua was not the strongest here. He had only just reached the 6th sky of the honorable realm. There was still a gap between him and those seniors. However, his status was very special because he was a direct descendant of the Shin family. It could be said that his status and bloodline were the noblest among those present. Even though those seniors were powerful, they still had to listen to Shenhua. The black-robed old man stopped Shenhua and took a step forward. His eyes flickered as he looked at the 2 figures in front of him. "I have to say that the strength of the 2 of you has indeed exceeded our expectations. However, that's all you have. Originally, you only needed to hand over the treasures. However, things are different now. You actually dared to attack a disciple of the Shen family in public. You've committed an unforgivable crime. Therefore, you can only repay it with your lives." The black-robed old man's aura was very powerful. He had already reached the 6th sky of the honorable realm. Moreover, he had been in the 6th sky of the honorable realm for over 100 years. It could be said that he was very powerful and was far from what an ordinary 6th sky of the honorable realm could compare to. Therefore, in his opinion, killing the young man and woman in front of him was as easy as flipping his hand. However, Zhao Shui snorted coldly. "Old thing, you're taking advantage of your seniority. So much nonsense. If you want to fight, then hurry up and attack. Her voice was filled with disdain. You're courting death. The black-robed old man was furious when he heard that. No one had ever dared to look down on him. And the other party was just a young junior. In the next moment, the spiritual energy in his body burst out, and the powerful energy of a sixth heaven venerable emerged. He punched out, causing the void to tremble. Tens of thousands of lightning flashed. The terrifying fist also brought with it boundless lightning. It was as if the god of thunder had descended to the world, blasting forward. However, Zhao Xue's expression was cold, and her lips curled into a disdainful smile. She raised her slender, jade-like hand and gently pressed forward. Rumble. Countless booms sounded. Under Zhao Xue's delicate hands, the violent lightning fist split apart rapidly. Endless lightning was destroyed and scattered in the void. What? This is impossible. Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. The black-robed old man's pupils shrank as he continuously retreated. Only then was he able to block the energy shockwave. Impossible. How could you possibly possess such powerful strength? He was about to go crazy. He was incomparably shocked. He thought that killing a young junior would be as easy as taking something out of his pocket. However, he didn't expect that his violent lightning fist would be easily destroyed by the other party. He couldn't accept this at all. You're seventh heaven venerable? The black-robed old man said in a trembling voice. What? Seventh heaven venerable? Hearing this, everyone was shocked and gasped. A seventh heaven venerable was an extremely powerful existence. No wonder she dared to snatch something from the Shen family. Under normal circumstances, those who had reached seventh heaven venerable were usually elders. Very few people could reach this realm at such a young age. Who exactly are you? Which faction do you belong to? The black-robed old man asked in a trembling voice. He was too shocked. It was rare to see such a young seventh heaven venerable. Now he suppressed the shock in his heart and wanted to ask about the faction behind Zhao Xue. This was because someone who could reach seventh heaven venerable at such a young age was definitely a disciple of the House of Kings. For example, the Shen family also had a seventh heaven venerable of the younger generation. Therefore, in his opinion, there was definitely a House of Kings behind Zhao Xue. Which House of Kings dared to attack the Shen family so brazenly? The black-robed old man was shocked. He had to get to the bottom of this matter. Otherwise, the Shen family would be in danger in the remote sky secret realm. I'm from the Void Sky faction, Zhao Xue said proudly. She didn't hide anything. Void Sky faction? What faction is that? Everyone was stunned when they heard Zhao Xue's words. They thought about it carefully and realized that they had never heard of this sect before. The Shen family's elders were also stunned. They discussed in low voices and realized that there was no Void Sky faction in the Tianwu continent. Fraud. At this moment, the purple-robed elder from the Shen family shouted coldly, Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you've reached seventh heaven venerable. Let me tell you, you don't have the right to be arrogant in front of the Shen family. I don't care which faction you're from. I'll give you a piece of advice. Quickly hand over the things you've stolen, and I'll let you leave safely. Otherwise, don't blame me for being merciless. The purple-robed elder finally stood out. Seeing the purple-robed elder, all the cultivators from the Shen family heaved a sigh of relief. There was nothing they could do. Zhao Xue's strength was too terrifying. She was actually a seventh heaven venerable. This completely surpassed all of them. So, they had no chance of winning against Zhao Xue. However, the purple-robed elder was different this time, because he was also a seventh heaven venerable. Moreover, the purple-robed elder's cultivation was definitely stronger than his opponent's, because Zhao Xue was only in her 20s. She had probably just reached seventh Heaven Venerable. However, the purple-robed elder was different. He had already reached 7th Heaven Venerable for a few decades. He was definitely extremely powerful. Even 7th Heaven Venerables have differences in strength. Today, I'll teach you a lesson and let you know that there's always someone stronger. The purple-robed elder faced Zhao Shui with the attitude of a senior. Is that so? I'd like to see what right you have to say that. Zhao Shui sneered. Then, the two of them faced each other from a distance. Although they didn't attack, their auras had already begun to clash in the air. Low sounds of collisions rang out in the air. Flashes of lightning flashed from time to time. It was obvious that the two of them were already competing. Everyone retreated, leaving a considerable distance for the two of them. 7th Heaven Venerables were too terrifying. Just their aura alone wasn't something they could resist. Lin Xian also stepped lightly and retreated to a safe distance. Li watched silently. He had already seen Zhao Shui's strength before, so he wasn't worried that she would be injured. Lin Xian shifted his gaze away from Zhao Shui and looked at the treasury again. It seemed like he still wanted to continue seizing. This scene angered the disciples of the Shan family. Many of them glared at Lin Xian with murderous intent in their eyes. Chapter 1117. Humph, you still dare to have designs on the treasury at this point in time. I have to say that you are too presumptuous. Kid, kneel down and accept your death. Hand over the treasures in your hands obediently, and I can leave you with an intact corpse. Otherwise, you will suffer the most painful punishment in the world. The group of warriors from the Shin family stared at Lin Xian unkindly. You still dare to be so arrogant. Looks like I haven't taught you enough of a lesson. Lin Xian squinted his eyes and said indifferently, Humph, you are just a level 5 honorable. How dare you say such words? You are courting death. Kid, I admit that your companion is very powerful. She has reached level 7 honorable at her age. She is indeed very strong. However, you are much weaker. A level 5 honorable is nothing in front of us. The group of people sneered when they noticed Lin Xian's cultivation. From their point of view, Zhao Shui was undoubtedly the leader of the two, while Lin Xian was the lackey. Thus, they were not afraid of Lin Xian in the slightest. Instead, they were looking down on him with arrogance. Brother Hua, let me go. The young man in armor gritted his teeth and said. Previously, Zhao Shui had snatched the earth crystal, and he was furious. However, Zhao Shui was too powerful, and he could not defeat her. Therefore, he could only transfer his anger to Lin Xian. Although he was only a level 5 honorable, he was extremely confident in dealing with Lin Xian. That was because he was from the House of Kings. He had a powerful cultivation technique, and the quality of his spiritual power was much higher than that of his peers. Moreover, he had mastered many powerful martial arts techniques, which made his combat power very strong. More importantly, his cultivation was not an ordinary level 5 honorable. He had one foot in the door of the level 6 honorable. He could be said to be the most powerful existence among the level 5 honorable. For someone like him, he was confident in fighting against a level 6 honorable from an ordinary force, let alone a level 6 honorable of the same level. Therefore, in his opinion, dealing with Lin Xian would be a piece of cake. Brat, believe it or not, I only need one move to capture you. The armored youth was extremely arrogant. I don't believe it. The corners of Lin Xian's mouth curled up in disdain. With his current strength, he could easily defeat a 6th Heaven Venerable, let alone a 5th Heaven Venerable. Therefore, he did not take the armored youth seriously at all. However, Lin Xian's attitude had undoubtedly infuriated the armored youth. Brat, you've successfully angered me, so your end will be very miserable. The armored young man's voice was ferocious. Then he stomped his foot and charged toward Lin Xian like a bolt of lightning. Lin Xian's attitude completely infuriated the armored youth. If Zhao Shui was the one being arrogant, then so be it. After all, she was a 7th rank supremacy. Her strength could crush everything, and he could do nothing about it. However, the young man in front of him was clearly only a 5th heaven venerable. How dare he be so arrogant? He was simply courting death. Therefore, the armored youth was very angry. The consequences would be severe. He planned to let Lin Xian taste all the torture in the world after capturing him. In an instant, the armored youth arrived in front of Lin Xian like a bolt of lightning. His 5 fingers formed a claw and clawed down. It was a very insidious martial art called the Nether Ghost Claw. Any martial artist who was clawed by this ghost claw would have their blood and qi sucked dry, turning them into a mummy. It could be said that it was very insidious. At this moment, the armored youth was using such a martial art. He was prepared to let Lin Xian die in pain. His ghost claw was dozens of meters long. Black light surrounded it, and it carried a shocking aura. Seeing this scene, everyone exclaimed because the armored youth's move was too terrifying. It already had the aura of a 6th heaven venerable. Although it was very faint, it was not something that an ordinary 5th heaven venerable could withstand. Although that young man is also a 5th heaven venerable, he won't be able to withstand this claw. Yes, among those of the same level, the disciples of the House of Kings are gods. No one can defeat them. It's over. That beautiful woman is also being held back by the Shen family's elder. I'm afraid she won't have any spare energy to deal with this young man. The surrounding martial artists sighed. On the other hand, the people of the Shen family sneered and were ready to watch the show. How dare a 5th heaven kid be so presumptuous in front of us? He really doesn't know how to spell the word death. Just watch. He definitely won't be able to withstand this claw. I guess the woman in white won't have a chance to attack either. At this point, the crowd looked at the woman in white again. The purple-robed elder of the Shen family also looked solemn. He was doing his best to hold back Zhao Shui so that she could not attack. However, Zhao Shui's expression was cold, and she had no intention of helping Lin Xian. This action stunned everyone. However, the disciples of the Shen family sneered. "Ha! It seems like this young man has been abandoned. Yes, the woman in white won't attack at all. This young man will definitely not escape this calamity." When the armored young man heard about this, he immediately revealed a hideous smile. Young man, die. As soon as he finished speaking, the black bone claw in the sky suddenly grabbed down and tore the void apart. It directly enveloped Lin Xian. Lin Xian's lips curled into a mocking smile. This group of people is really pitifully stupid. In the next moment, his face turned solemn. He snorted coldly, and a blood-red sword radiance flew out from his body and slashed forward. Rumble! The blood-red sword radiance flashed like a vast and mighty red sea. Accompanying it was an unusually fierce force that surged and surged, as if it was tearing the 9 heavens apart. In just a moment, the black ghost claw above was torn apart. The sword radiance directly smashed the bone claw into pieces, and it no longer existed. The armored young man screamed in pain, and his body flew backward. Before he landed, his body had already been split into 2 halves. This scene was so shocking that it directly stunned everyone. The elite genius of the Shin family was dead. He was actually killed by a sword. This was really unbelievable. Moreover, the person who accomplished this feat was merely a young man who was only at the 5th sky of the honorable realm. Looking at this scene, everyone's scalps went numb and their hearts trembled. What kind of power was this? How could he kill a genius martial artist who was half a step into the 6th sky of the honorable realm with a sword? Who exactly was this young man? How could he have such terrifying combat strength? No. The disciples of the Shen family turned pale with fright and screamed one after another. The pupils of the older generation also shrank abruptly. They could not believe what they had just seen. "How dare you kill our Shin family's disciple? Young man, you're dead meat. Kill him and avenge our Shen family's disciple." The tall young man Shen Hua's face was terrifyingly gloomy. Previously, Zhao Shui had already shocked them to the core. However, this time, they did not expect the young man whom they had originally regarded as an ant to possess such shocking power. Not only that, but he also killed an elite disciple of the Shen family in front of everyone. This was no longer a slap in the face. This was a direct slap in the face. Chapter 1118. You're only at the 5th sky of the Venerable Realm, but you actually have the strength of a 6th sky of the Venerable Realm. I have to admit that you've surprised me. However, no one can casually kill a disciple of the Shan family. You're no exception. I'll personally kill you as a sacrifice to the spirit of a disciple of the Shan family. What? Shin Hua was going to make a move? Hearing this, everyone's heart trembled. This was because Shan Hua was different from the dead armored young man. He wasn't a 5th sky of the Venerable Realm, but a 6th sky of the Venerable Realm. Although the mysterious young man in front of them had the strength of a 6th sky of the Venerable Realm, he wasn't a 6th sky of the Venerable Realm after all. Therefore, he wouldn't be able to gain any advantage over Xinhua, who was a 6th sky of the Venerable Realm. Moreover, Xinhua wasn't an ordinary 6th sky of the Venerable Realm. He was a core disciple of the Shen family, and his strength was definitely beyond imagination. It seemed that the Shen family was really angry this time. However, the elders of the Shin family looked worried. This young man in front of them was too strange, and they were a little worried. "Young Master Hua, there's no need for you to deal with a little thief. Why don't you let me do it? That's right. I can slap him to death with one hand." The people who spoke were a few of the elders. "No need. I alone am enough to deal with him," Shanhua said proudly. "This kid is too strange. I'm afraid, say no more. If I'm afraid of such a small matter, then how can I be worthy of being a genius disciple of the Shin family?" Shanhua said coldly. Indeed, ever since he started cultivating, he rarely lost. Other than a few people of the younger generation who were older than him, he didn't take the others seriously at all. Especially now that he had broken through to the 6th sky of the Venerable Realm, he was confident that he could compete with those elders, let alone this young man who was only at the 5th sky of the Venerable Realm. His opponent was a little strange, but he had absolute confidence that he could kill him. It had to be said that Shanhua was definitely an outstanding genius. Whether it was in terms of cultivation or strength, he far surpassed his peers. He was already able to compete with those elders who had lived for hundreds of years. He didn't take a step forward, and he stood proudly like a god of war. His vigorous and powerful hand grasped the long saber at his waist. This long saber was not ordinary. It was a half-earth step artifact. The scabbard was dark green in color. It was made from the skin of a 5-star demon, General Tiger Shark. Precious gems were engraved on it, and they were extremely dazzling. Disregarding everything else, just this scabbard alone was something that countless people could only look up to. Artifact. That's a half-earth step artifact. Someone cried out. Looks like Xinhua is serious. He used a half-earth tier, prized artifact, right off the bat. Clearly, he wants to go all out and kill his opponent in one strike, not giving him any chance. Seeing the scene, everyone sucked in a cold breath. This was because they could no longer think of any way that Lin Xian could turn defeat into victory. In terms of cultivation, he was only at the 5th heavenly layer, which was no match for Xinhua. In terms of cultivation techniques and martial skills, Xinhua's foundation was also profound, far surpassing those of the same level. Moreover, Xinhua still had a half-earth rank treasured saber in his possession, which made him even more powerful. Therefore, in everyone's opinion, Lin Xian was dead for sure this time. Shen Hua held the half-earth rank long saber in his hand, and a terrifying aura suddenly soared from his body. "Kid, it's your honor to die under my saber." He looked at Lin Xian, and a trace of disdain appeared at the corner of his mouth. "You think too much. It's not too late to say these words after you succeed." Lin Xian shook his head slightly, his face calm. "Humph, you're about to die, and you still dare to be stubborn." Shen Hua shouted angrily, then waved his arm. The long saber was unsheathed, and a clanging sound rang out. A blazing light bloomed, like a raging wave beating the shore, and a terrifying aura spread out. Endless light shrouded the entire space. What a sharp aura! Feeling the shocking murderous aura emitted from the long saber, everyone's face changed. They found that the long saber was more terrifying than they imagined. In the next moment, Shen Hua held the long saber and quickly slashed at Lin Xian. This slash was like a thunderclap from the ninth heaven. Rays of light condensed, forming a huge saber light, and slashed forward. Just the light alone was terrifying, and it hurt the eyes of many martial artists. They did not dare to look directly at it. One could imagine how terrifying this slash was. The huge saber light slashed forward, and Lin Xian was shrouded under it. The air billowed, and the void was cut in half. Lin Xian was about to be cut in half. At this moment, Lin Xian moved. Sword Qi surrounded his body, and he looked like a sword god, as if he was going to split the world. Lin Xian opened his 5 fingers and reached for the sky, holding the entire space in his hand. His body did not move, and he still stood there, but his big hand reached out and covered everything. Sword Qi surrounded his 5 fingers, and each finger was like a heavenly sword, causing the world to tremble. Bang! The saber light from the half-earth rank treasure was shattered in an instant. And it was not over yet. Lin Xian's big hand was like a dark cloud that covered the sky, and it quickly shrouded Shen Hua. What? The saber light was shattered? How is this possible? Everyone was stunned because they did not dare to believe it. That was a saber light from a half-earth rank treasure, and it was definitely terrifying. Moreover, it was produced by Shen Hua, a 6th rank supremacy. It could be said that there were few 6th rank supremacies who could match this slash. However, things went beyond everyone's expectations. Lin Xian actually managed to break through the terrifying blade light in an instant. Not only that, even Shen Hua was about to be captured. Not only the surrounding martial artists, but the disciples of the Shin family were also frightened. Originally, they were arrogant and thought that as long as Shen Hua made a move, he would definitely be able to kill the enemy easily. However, they did not expect things to turn out like this. Not only was Lin Xian not dead, but he was also not injured. Moreover, it seemed that he wanted to kill Shen Hua. The change was too fast, and no one could accept it. Impossible! How could you break my saber light? Shen Hua went crazy, and his face was full of disbelief. Previously, he had made a solemn vow and looked down on Lin Xian from a lofty position. He hadn't taken the other party seriously at all. However, he did not expect that this young man, who he regarded as an ant, would have such power and easily break his attack. Now he wanted to kill him. He could not accept it. Open! Shen Hua was furious. He held the long saber in his hand and swept it in all directions. Countless saber lights swept across, as if he wanted to cut Lin Xian's 5 fingers into pieces. However, he had underestimated the 5 fingers. At this moment, Lin Xian displayed his full strength. His 5 fingers were like heavenly swords, and they were extremely sharp. Not only that, there were dragon-shaped sword Qi revolving around each of his fingers. It contained the power of the dragon sword soul, and it was extremely powerful. Even a 7th rank supremacy would find it difficult to break it, let alone a 6th rank supremacy like Shen Hua. Rumble! Countless saber lights slashed the 5 fingers, and there were clanging sounds, but they could not shake them at all. On the other hand, Lin Xian sneered and slowly closed his 5 fingers, as if he was trapping Xinhua. Chapter 1119. No, I won't lose. Shen Hua was heartbroken. His expression was ferocious, and he was no longer as calm and arrogant as before. In the next moment, he struggled with all his might like a madman, but it was to no avail. Impossible! How can you be so powerful? He was completely mad, and the confidence in his heart was instantly shattered. Originally, he was also a prodigy in his family. Apart from a few older brothers, he was not afraid of any opponents at all. However, Lin Xian's strength now made him feel as if he had been struck by lightning. The confidence and fighting spirit that he had accumulated over many years were completely shattered. This was because Lin Xian was too powerful. His cultivation level was lower than his, but his strength was much higher than his. Facing Lin Xian was like facing a 7th heaven venerable. This made him unable to resist at all. Meanwhile, the expressions of the Shen family elders behind him changed drastically. Shen Hua's identity was not ordinary. He was a direct disciple, and they could not afford to lose him. At the same time, they were extremely shocked. They had long expected that the other party was very strange, but they had not expected that the degree of strangeness was far beyond their imagination. A 5th heaven venerable had suppressed a 6th heaven venerable with a raise of his hand. This technique was really too terrifying. Thus, they did not dare to delay and quickly attacked, fearing that Lin Xian would kill Xinhua. "Stop, you little thief! Hurry up and release him, and I'll spare your life. Otherwise, there will be no way for you to live in this world." The elders were enraged, and they instantly exploded with unparalleled power. The power was extremely terrifying, and it was as if it was going to destroy the entire cave. Fortunately, those who attacked were all elders, and they were very powerful. Their control of power was very precise, so their power did not destroy the cave. Instead, it all surged toward Lin Xian. Looking at this scene, the surrounding cultivators were stunned again. The elders were too powerful, and each of them was far more powerful than Xinhua. At this moment, if they attacked together, it was likely that no one would be able to resist. This Lin Xian was very powerful, but it was likely that he would not be able to resist so many elders. Thus, for a moment, everyone's hearts were in their mouths again. Lin Xian's expression was also dark. With so many elders attacking, even he would find it difficult to resist. However, his expression was cold, and he was fearless. In the next moment, he sneered, "Whoever dares to attack, I'll kill him immediately." With that, he exerted a little force, and immediately Xinhua, who was in his palm, screamed like a pig. Hearing this scream, the faces of the older generation changed. They quickly clenched their teeth and withdrew the power they had unleashed. If they could not kill Lin Xian, he would definitely kill Xinhua, because they would be killed. At that time, things would get out of hand. The entire Shen family would probably be furious. Thus, they surrounded Shen Titi in the distance. The purple-robed elder who was fighting against Zhao Shui also heard the news, and his face instantly turned gloomy. He's Titi. T-S-T-C-O-S of the Shuns Shint. Test. As both sides faced each other, and the atmosphere in the entire space was tense to the extreme. "Brat, I advise you not to make a mistake. Let him go. Otherwise, you won't be able to survive in Tianwu continent," the purple-robed elder said coldly. "I can let him go, but it depends on your sincerity." Lin Xian smirked. He did not intend to kill Xinhua because he did not want to get into trouble. However, it was impossible for him to let Xinhua go so easily. Hearing Lin Xian's words, the Shen family martial artists heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, as long as Xinhua was not dead set on killing Xinhua, everything would be fine. "What do you want?" the purple-robed elder asked. "It's simple. Use the treasure vault in exchange for his life, Lin Xian said calmly. What? Hearing this, everyone's eyelids twitched, especially the Shun family martial artists. Their expressions were extremely ugly. They had spent a lot of effort to get their hands on the treasure vault. Furthermore, it was filled with peerless treasures. It was extremely precious. How could they bear to give it to someone else? The purple-robed elder's expression darkened. His gaze was cold as he stared at Lin Xian. He said coldly, "Young man, you are too greedy." There was a strong killing intent in his voice. It was obvious that Lin Xian's words had triggered his killing intent. Lin Xian shrugged his shoulders in an indifferent manner. He completely ignored this terrifying, murderous aura. Since both sides had fallen out and had become enemies, he had to fight for the greatest benefits for himself. Furthermore, from the reactions of these people, he knew that the young man he had captured must have a special identity. Otherwise, these elders would not be so fearful of him. He would be a fool if he did not take advantage of such good conditions. At this moment, the purple-robed elder from the Shen family spoke again. "It's impossible for us to give you the entire treasure vault. How about this? I'll let you choose 3 treasures, and you let him go. How about that?" 3 treasures? It seems that this kid's life is worthless. Lin Xian sneered. "How about this? I'll give you 3 treasures in exchange for this kid's life. How about that?" Hearing this, the Shen family elders trembled with anger and almost vomited blood. They stared fiercely at Lin Xian, wishing they could tear him apart. "Kid, I advise you not to go against the Shen family because you can't afford to offend us." The purple-robed elder's voice was cold. "This is my advice to you. This treasure vault is filled with precious treasures. 3 treasures are already a lot. You can take these 3 treasures and leave safely. This is the best deal for you." Hearing the purple-robed elder's words, Lin Xian sneered. This group of old men wanted to save people but were unwilling to bleed. How could there be such a good deal in the world? He sneered. "Cut the crap. Do you want to exchange the treasure vault or not?" "You." The purple-robed elder was trembling with anger. A huge aura rushed out quickly, causing the surrounding warriors to feel fear. He didn't expect this young man in front of him to be so stubborn. No matter what he said, the other party seemed determined to take the treasure vault. However, the treasure vault was their treasure. How could they be willing to give it to someone else? However, he was afraid that the other party would really be ruthless and kill Xinhua. Therefore, the warriors of the Shen family were in a dilemma. Seeing the warriors of the Shen family hesitate, Lin Xian also frowned. His current situation was very dangerous. If the other party came to help, he would be in trouble. At that time, even if he obtained the treasure vault, he wouldn't be able to leave. Therefore, he snorted again and said quickly, "I'll only give you 10 breaths to think. After 10 breaths, if you don't answer, I'll kill this kid." Hearing this, the warriors of the Shen family all looked gloomy. Each of them exuded a terrifying, murderous aura. However, Lin Xian didn't care at all. He said coldly, 10, 9, 8. Chapter 11:20. Following Lin Xian's countdown, the air became dense again, as if it was about to freeze. "Young man, leave some leeway for us to meet in the future." The purple-robed elder gritted his teeth and said, "Meet in the future? Who are you trying to fool? Do you think we can meet in the future?" Lin Xian sneered and continued, 5, 4, 3. There were still 2 breaths left. However, the Shun family members were still hesitating. At this moment, Lin Xian spoke again. He spoke. "It seems that this kid's life is not limited to just one treasury. I wonder what will happen to you if this news gets back to the Shun family." Hearing Lin Xian's words, everyone's expression changed. The Shun family elders' expressions changed greatly, and a trace of fear appeared in their eyes. The purple-robed elder's pupils shrank, and his expression became extremely ugly. Finally, he gritted his teeth and said, "We agree to your conditions. The treasury is yours. Hurry up and let him go." Previously, they had been blinded by the treasures in the treasury, so they had forgotten some things. Shen Hua was a direct descendant of the Shin family. Moreover, his grandfather was a very powerful elder in the Shin family. If the news of them not saving Shin Hua got out, then they would end up in a miserable state. Therefore, they did not dare to hesitate and quickly agreed to Lin Xian's conditions. Seeing this scene, Lin Xian smiled. He opened his mouth again and said, "Then it's a deal. However, we have to retrieve the treasures in the treasury first. Only then can I let this kid go. I hope what you said is true. Otherwise, no one in this world can save you." The purple-robed elder waved his sleeve. He was gritting his teeth so hard that they almost broke. "Hurry up and retrieve everything in the treasury. Then we will leave this place," Lin Xian said to Zhao Shui. Now that he had trapped Xinhua, it was inconvenient for him to take action. Therefore, he asked Zhao Shui to retrieve the treasures. Zhao Shui nodded. Then her figure flashed, and she arrived in front of the treasury. She formed a seal with her hands, and the virtual sky eye appeared. It quickly formed a pale, golden vortex, and retrieved the treasures in the treasury. Whoosh! The little white monkey also flew over and quickly attacked. It hugged the shabby little bowl and mumbled to itself like a little immortal. Under the horrified gazes of the crowd, the small bowl rapidly expanded as it crazily absorbed the treasures in the treasury. The speed of the little white monkey was even faster than Zhao Shui. Lin Xian was also shocked. He didn't think that the little white monkey's shabby little bowl would have such a function. Looking at the speed at which it was being collected, it was definitely one of a kind. Then, under Zhao Shui and the little white monkey's frantic search, the entire treasury was emptied. Not even a scrap was left. After doing all this, Zhao Shui's figure flashed, and she appeared beside Lin Xian. The little white monkey also sat on Lin Xian's shoulder. Lin Xian, on the other hand, wore a solemn expression and said in a deep voice, "Retreat to a safe distance and give us some space to leave. Everyone back off." The purple-robed elder's face was gloomy as he turned around and ordered the martial artists of the Shen family. The martial artists of the Shen family were indignant. Their hearts were bleeding. That was the treasury left behind by the ancient masters. It was filled with extremely precious treasures. However, at this moment, it was completely emptied. Not even a strand of hair was left behind. They were about to go crazy. However, due to the order, they could only grit their teeth and retreat. Everyone stared intently at Lin Xianxian and Zhao Shui. They had already decided that once the other party released Xinhua, they would chase after the two of them with all their might. They had to take back the treasures that they had lost. After retreating to a safe distance, Lin Xian estimated that it was about time. He looked at Zhao Shui and nodded slightly. Then he waved his hand and released Xinhua. The moment Xinhua was thrown out, the elders of the Shin family took action. Two of the elders went to catch Xinhua to prevent him from being captured again. The other elders and martial artists quickly chased after Lin Xian and Zhao Shui, swearing that they would take them down. Swoosh! 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 Countless rays of light flashed as everyone rushed forward crazily, especially the purple-robed elder. His speed was even more shocking. He was like a spark that lit a flint. In an instant, he arrived at the place where Lin Xian had been standing. He slapped down and covered Lin Xian's body. However, in the next moment, he frowned. An afterimage. Haha, don't waste your energy. You won't be able to catch up. Lin Xian's laughter came from the front. He had used the illusory demonic steps, and his speed was extremely fast. Not only that, a pair of tempest wings appeared on his back. With a light flap, he flew away at lightning speed. Zhao Xue's speed was not slow either. She followed closely behind Lin Xian. The two of them were extremely fast. Even a 7th-level honorable would not be able to catch up with them. However, the purple-robed elder did not give up. He continued to chase after them. As long as he could get close to the two of them and stop them, he would be able to wait for the main force behind. However, the more he chased, the more shocked he became. The distance between them did not decrease at all. In fact, it increased. This made him extremely shocked. Zhao Xue could understand. After all, the other party was a 7th-level honorable. His strength was not inferior to hers. However, Lin Xian's performance shocked him. He could not accept that Lin Xian's speed was even faster than his. D***MN. Who is this kid? Why is he so strange? He was extremely frustrated. Lin Xian's figure was about to disappear from his sight. The purple-robed elder gritted his teeth and was about to use his secret technique. However, at this moment, a freezing force suddenly came from the front. It froze the entire passage in front of him. It was like a world of ice and frost. An extremely bone-piercing cold aura filled the air, causing his body to stiffen. With a cold shout, the purple-robed elder channeled his spiritual power and shattered the cold aura. Although the cold aura could not cause him any harm, it still slowed him down a little. At this moment, Lin Xian and Zhao Xue had disappeared. D***MN thief. If I see you again, I'll definitely kill you. The purple-robed elder roared at the sky like a crazy beast. His voice reverberated in all directions and was extremely terrifying. However, all of this was useless. Lin Xian and Zhao Xue had already left. The two of them used their secret technique to conceal their bodies and aura. Then, they quietly moved deeper into the cave. After completely shaking off the Shen family's pursuit, Lin Xian and Zhao Xue stopped and began to distribute the treasures they had obtained. As Lin Xian had played a key role in the entire operation by capturing Xinhua, Lin Xian received 60% of the treasures, while Zhao Xue received 40%. Zhao Xue was not dissatisfied. If she had acted alone, she would have at most snatched a few treasures. She would not have emptied the entire treasury like this. Therefore, she was very satisfied with the current distribution. Lin Xian was ecstatic. The harvest this time was much more than the sum of all his previous operations. Moreover, this treasury was extraordinary. The treasures inside were extremely precious. If placed on the mainland, countless people would go crazy over them. Lin Xian picked out some items that he could use for the time being and placed them beside him. As for the rest, he carefully put them away into his storage ring. Zhao Xue had also finished organizing. She looked at Lin Xian again and said in a low voice, "What should we do next?" Chapter 11:21. Of course, we have to continue with our mission. Lin Xian's eyes lit up. I reckon that this cave abode was left behind by an ancient master. There must be more treasures in other places. Aren't you afraid that the other forces will be unhappy and hunt you down? Zhao Xue asked. I'm not afraid. Lin Xian shrugged and said with a smile, So far, the forces that I've robbed are all forces that have a grudge against me. So, even if I don't rob them, our relationship won't change. If that's the case, why don't I rob more? As long as I'm strong enough, I won't be afraid of these families. Lin Xian was extremely confident. He had enough cultivation techniques and elixir recipes. The only thing he lacked was resources. If he had enough resources, his cultivation would definitely soar. By then, it would be hard to say who would be afraid of whom. Since that's the case, I'm relieved. Zhao Xue nodded. Let's go and take a look. Lin Xian stood up and ran forward. With the two of them working together, their strength was extremely strong. As long as they weren't surrounded by a group of level 7 honorables, their lives wouldn't be in danger. The two of them moved forward at a fast speed. However, at this moment, a muffled voice was heard from afar. "Haha, little girl Morong, I advise you to give up. With your current situation, it's impossible for you to protect these things. Whether we can protect them or not, you'll know when you try." At this moment, another feminine voice was heard. Hearing the voice in front, Lin Xian frowned. Judging from the voice, it should be Morong Qingqing. Furthermore, it seemed like she was in trouble. "Let's speed up and follow her," Lin Xian said to Zhao Shui. Then the zephyr wings on his back flapped. Light flashed on them, and as they flapped, they brought with them the power of zephyr thunder, increasing his speed once again. At the side, Zhao Shui's body was also glowing. She followed closely behind Lin Xian and flew forward. The voice in front was indeed from Morong Qingqing. Morong Qingqing was dressed in purple and looked very dignified. Her entire body was emitting spiritual energy. Zhao Shui was different from Zhao Shui. Previously, Zhao Shui was like an evil spirit. After losing her memories, her personality became extremely cold and unapproachable. However, Morong Qingqing was different. She was like a queen with an irresistible temperament. At this moment, she had indeed encountered some trouble. Opposite her were 3 powerful ancient martial art practitioners. 2 of them were 6th heavenly layer venerables, and 1 was a 7th heavenly layer venerable. The 3 of them were very powerful. "Little Morong girl, I must say that your powers have exceeded my expectations. You've managed to hold your own against us for such a long time. This is truly shocking." The one who spoke was a middle-aged man. He wore a dark green robe and had a domineering aura around him. This dark green man's aura was terrifying. He had reached the 7th level of the supremacy realm. However, it's impossible to guard these treasures. I advise you not to waste your energy. If you get injured, I won't be able to explain it to the Morong family. Don't be so smug. The Morong family was the first to discover these treasures. If you want to have a share, you'll have to ask for my permission first. Faced with such a powerful lineup, Morong Qingqing did not back down at all. At this moment, a cold snort was heard from the side. "Little Morong girl, we've already given you face. If you don't appreciate our kindness, don't blame us for being merciless." This time it was a woman who spoke. She looked to be in her 30s, and her entire body exuded a mature aura. She wore a long pink dress, which emitted a sparkling light. It revealed her snow-white thighs and impressive twin peaks. She held a pink paper umbrella, which made her look extremely alluring. However, at this moment, her voice was cold. "Give you face? The Morong family doesn't need you to give us face." Behind Morong Qingqing stood an old lady with a head full of white hair. At this moment, when she heard the other party's threat, she snorted coldly. "Since that's the case, let's see how long you can remain stubborn." The girl in pink held the paper umbrella and walked forward step by step. In the next moment, the aura of a 7th level supremacy erupted from the pink woman's body. When this aura appeared, the surrounding cultivators immediately felt their scalps go numb. On the opposite side, Morong Qingqing's expression was grave, as if she was facing a great enemy. To be honest, she could still contend against the previous lineup of 3 people. However, if a 7th level supremacy joined the fray, she would be in a very dangerous situation. After all, a 7th level supremacy's strength was extremely terrifying. With such a powerhouse joining the fray, the situation of the battle would definitely change. However, it was impossible for her to admit defeat just like that. In the next moment, Morong Qingqing cried out. With a flip of her hand, a fist-sized imperial jade seal appeared in her hand. The imperial jade seal was crimson red and had a lifelike phoenix carved on it. Light flowed on it like blood flowing in a pool. It was exceptionally lifelike. As soon as the crimson imperial jade seal appeared, A terrifying aura immediately erupted and resisted the pressure of a 7th-level supremacy from the woman in red. Seeing that her opponent could resist her aura, the pink woman's expression darkened and she snorted coldly. Light flowed around her body, and the paper umbrella in her hand also emitted light. Then, a beautiful ray of light flew out from the umbrella. It was like a fairy flying from the heavens, emitting a dazzling light as it slashed forward. It was an exceptionally stunning ray of light that instantly lit up the entire sky. The surrounding cultivators did not even have time to react before the ray of light arrived in front of Morong Chingching. It was too terrifying. The ray of light was extremely sharp and quickly pierced towards Morong Chingching. It was about to pierce through her. Not only that, but the 7th-level supremacy aura that it emitted was even more terrifying. However, Morong Chingching cried out. She held the crimson imperial jade seal in her hand and blasted it forward. In the next moment, the pink ray of light collided with the imperial jade seal violently, emitting a deafening sound. However, what shocked everyone was that the crimson imperial jade seal actually blocked the ray of light. What? It blocked it. The cultivators on the pink woman's side were shocked and in disbelief. The pink woman was also extremely surprised and could not help but squint her eyes. Morong Chingching stretched out her hand and held the crimson imperial jade seal. The bottom of the imperial jade seal was square, and there was a real dragon coiling around each side. There was a phoenix lying on top of it. It was like an immemorial divine beast that was looking down at the world below. Under Morong Chingching's control, the phoenix on the imperial jade seal seemed to have awakened and emitted an infinite ray of light. In a daze, everyone seemed to have seen a huge phoenix awaken and spread its wings to cover the surroundings. Crimson light flowed and divine light bloomed. It was as if the blood of a god had spilled. It was extremely terrifying. What kind of treasure is that? It's so terrifying. Even I feel a little scared. The pink woman looked at the scene in front of her and frowned. Chapter 11:22. She had thought that she would be able to take down Morong Chingcheng easily with her help. However, she had not expected that she would not be able to gain the upper hand at all. Instead, she was intimidated by her opponent's aura. Pink Sky Fragrance, although you are also a 7th-level venerable, you are no match for my young mistress. The white-haired old lady behind Morong Chingching said proudly. At the front, the green-haired, middle-aged man also frowned. He stared at the scarlet jade seal as his eyes flickered. Then he seemed to recall something and his expression changed. Could this be the true phoenix jade seal? There was even a hint of panic in his voice. Humph, at least you are knowledgeable. Of course, this is the true phoenix jade seal. The old lady said again. Impossible, how is this possible? This time, it was the black-robed, middle-aged man's turn to be shocked. As far as I know, controlling the true phoenix jade seal not only requires an extremely high cultivation, but more importantly, a special bloodline power is needed to activate it. No one from the Morong family has met this requirement for nearly 1,000 years. Could she have that bloodline? At the end of his words, that middle-aged man looked at Morong Chingching with extreme shock. This time, the white-haired old lady did not answer, but the middle-aged man muttered to himself in shock. Damn it, it seems like Morong Chingcheng really does have that bloodline. I'm afraid the situation is not good. Duan Mo, what are you mumbling about? The pink lady frowned. The shock on the black-robed man's face surprised everyone, especially the pink lady. She was confused because she had never seen such an expression on his face. Duan Mo, what are you talking about? What bloodline? The pink lady asked in confusion. The black-robed, middle-aged man took a deep breath and tried to control his shock. Then he said in a low voice, I can't explain this to you in a short time. However, you should have heard of the Morong family's origins. Murong Shue's bloodline is very similar to the first ancestor of the Murong family. What? That bloodline? Hearing the middle-aged man's words, the girl in pink was shocked and screamed. She hadn't expected Murong Qingqing's bloodline to be so pure that it had reached the point of atavism. Damn it, the Murong family is really lucky. There's actually someone whose bloodline can revert back to their ancestors. The pink woman's voice was filled with jealousy. They were all martial artists from top forces and clans. Their clans all had bloodlines that were passed down. However, with the passage of time, after thousands of years, the bloodline in their bodies had become very weak. Very few people could be like their ancestors, whose bloodline power was outstanding. However, this kind of thing was not absolute because it was very likely that there would be people with abnormal bloodlines among the younger generation. In other words, it was a phenomenon of atavism. However, this kind of phenomenon was very rare and almost impossible to see. They did not expect to see one in the Murong family, and it was right in front of them. Disregarding everything else, Mu Qingqing's bloodline power and control of the true phoenix Imperial Jade Seal was enough to contend against them. Therefore, the originally one-sided situation once again returned to a temporary balance. What should we do? Are we going to give up? The sixth-rank honorables looked at the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man frowned. Just as he was about to speak, the girl in pink gritted her teeth and said, "Humph." So what if her bloodline has reverted back to its ancestors? So what if she's strong? After all, they have limited numbers. If we join forces, I don't believe that we can't suppress her. This is not a battle of life and death. We just need to pin down Murong Qingqing while the others go and get the treasure. Hearing this, the middle-aged man in the dark green robes' eyes lit up and a smile appeared on his face. Yes, he was shocked by Murong Qingqing's bloodline power and was momentarily confused. Now that the girl in pink reminded him, he suddenly felt enlightened. Murong Qingqing was strong, but they were not weak either. Moreover, they were an alliance of many forces. Among them, the man in dark green was a martial artist from the Palace of Ares. In addition, there were also the 8 big clans under Prince Lingfeng. In addition, there were also people from the Palace of Divine Birds. If all of these families were put together, they would definitely surpass the Murong family. Let's split up and attack. I'll take some people to pin down Murong Qingqing. Tianxiang, you take some people to get the treasure. The man in dark green said in a deep voice. Then he roared and charged toward Murong Qingqing again with a few sixth-rank honorables. The girl in pink also led a group of martial artists and went around Murong Qingqing to get the treasure. Seeing this, Murong Qingqing snorted coldly and took the initiative to attack. Purple gas surrounded her body and quickly infused into the Imperial Jade Seal. Then, the Imperial Jade Seal trembled slightly. With the support of spiritual power, it quickly grew into the size of a small mountain and bloomed with colorful light. The colorful light burst out as if a phoenix was being born from the fire. Accompanying it was the deep cry of a phoenix. The sound was abnormally terrifying. It tore through the 9 heavens and shook many martial artists, causing them to lose their balance. The faces of the martial artists from the Palace of Divine Birds changed greatly. They seemed to be in trouble. The aura in their bodies was suppressed, and they could not even use half of their strength. On the other hand, the Murong family was in high spirits. Everyone was in high fighting spirit and quickly intercepted the enemy. In the next moment, Murong Qingqing waved her hand and the shadow of a phoenix quickly attacked. It circled in the air and flew directly toward the girl in pink. Like a phoenix dancing in the 9 heavens, it was extremely powerful. Damn it! The girl in pink saw this scene and suddenly turned pale with fright. In the face of this terrifying attack, she did not dare to be careless. She fully mobilized the spiritual power in her body and the surrounding spiritual qi to counterattack. She placed the paper fan in her hand horizontally and used it as a shield to block the attack. Rumble. The sound shook the sky. The martial artists behind the girl in red only felt their ears ringing. The spiritual power in their bodies was tumbling. Many of them vomited blood and were sent flying. Not only that, the surrounding rocks collapsed. The entire space became extremely distorted and cracks spread in all directions. This attack was too terrifying. If it were not for the protection of the array in the ancient cave mansion, this attack would have turned the entire ancient cave mansion into ashes and no longer exist. However, even so, there was still a huge tremor in the surroundings. It was unforgettable. The girl in red's face changed greatly. She only felt an irresistible force hit the paper umbrella in her hand and was immediately pushed back. On the other side, the middle-aged man in the dark green robe was also stopped by the Morong family. The two sides were in a stalemate again. In the next moment, the girl in pink and the middle-aged man's faces darkened. They did not expect this result at all. Although the Morong family was a family clan, they also had the Palace of War Gods on their side. Moreover, in addition to the Palace of War Gods, they had many rank 6 sects on their side. Chapter 11:23. It could be said that, in terms of strength, they had already surpassed the Morong family. Even so, both sides were only tied. No one could do anything to the other. How about this? Let's each take a step back and split the treasures here equally. The middle-aged man said in a deep voice. Originally, he wanted to chase the Morong family away and take all the treasures for himself, but now it seems impossible. Therefore, he proposed the condition of splitting the treasures equally. At this point, he could not help but look into the distance. There were countless heavenly materials and earthly treasures there, but his gaze fell on a peculiar item. It was a palm. Of course, there was no flesh left, only bones. However, even a blind person could see that this palm bone was extraordinary. This was because this clavicle was not white, but had a faint golden glow. The entire palm bone was faint golden. Although it had long lost its vitality, there was still a trace of aura that shocked everyone. That aura had already surpassed that of a supremacy. Therefore, this palm bone was at least something left behind by a king. Moreover, the middle-aged man estimated that this was definitely not an ordinary king. This was because he was also from the Palace of Gods of War, and there were also kings in the Palace of Gods of War. However, he had never heard of a king whose bones were faint golden. One could only imagine how precious this golden palm bone was. Previously, they had risked their lives to chase the Morong family away because of this golden palm bone. This golden palm bone was not only tempting to the middle-aged man, but also all the martial artists present. Moreover, it was not just the palm bone. The area around the palm bone was also filled with precious treasures. For example, there were a few fist-sized crystals near the pale golden hand bone. These crystals were crystal clear and flickered with colorful light. Not only that, but it also contained a shocking amount of spiritual energy. Even from far away, everyone could feel it. The younger disciples might not know what the stone represented, but the older generation, especially the 7th level supremacies, were all shocked. Their eyes were burning. This was because these were spirit stones, and they were superior grade spirit stones. All martial artists knew about spirit stones. This was because they were indispensable daily necessities, regardless of whether it was for cultivation or to use money to buy other things. It could be said that spirit stones were closely related to martial artists. However, most of the spirit stones on the market were low-grade and middle-grade spirit stones. Among them, low-grade spirit stones were the most inferior. Mid-grade spirit stones were the spirit stones that most martial artists used on a daily basis. Its purity and spiritual power were much better than that of low-grade spirit stones. However, there was another type of spirit stone above that, and that was the high-grade spirit stone. It was much better than the mid-grade spirit stone, because the spiritual energy contained in it was too pure. There was no need for the martial artist to refine the impurities. They could directly absorb the impurities without any side effects. Furthermore, the energy contained within it was several hundred times that of a middle-tier spirit stone. It could be said that it was exceptionally valuable. Most importantly, once a cultivator broke through from the Exalt realm and attained the King realm, they wouldn't be able to utilize mid-grade spirit stones anymore, whereas high-grade spirit stones could continue to be utilized. One could only imagine how precious a high-grade spirit stone was. This kind of thing couldn't be found on the market because it was monopolized by some of the top forces. However, even those big clans did not have many high-grade spirit stones in their possession. But now there were more than 10 high-grade spirit stones in this place. Besides the high-grade spirit stones, there were a few damaged weapons, and they were extremely striking. These weapons were extremely damaged. Some had been completely shattered into pieces, while others could still be distinguished. Even though these weapons were damaged, they emanated energy that caused one's heart to palpitate. Everyone knew that these weapons weren't ordinary treasures, and they were the fragments of Earth rank treasures. Even though these treasures were damaged, their value was even more precious than a quasi-Earth rank treasure. Moreover, the size of the remains here was much larger than any of the treasures they'd encountered in the past. If they were able to obtain it and utilize other materials to refine it, then they would absolutely be able to refine a peerless weapon. Once such a weapon was refined, then even though it was inferior to a true Earth rank treasure, it could crush any other weapon. If they were able to obtain such a treasure, then it would absolutely be able to improve their combat strength greatly. Besides this, there were other precious treasures of heaven and earth that caused others to go red with envy. Everyone guessed that these treasures probably belonged to the owner of the golden hand bone. However, a great battle might have occurred during the ancient times, causing that expert to perish and leave behind a pile of treasures. As for where the complete corpse went, no one knew. Moreover, this wasn't something that they were concerned about. What they were concerned about was how to obtain the treasures in this place to the greatest extent. Originally, this place was discovered by the Morong family, and other cultivators couldn't interfere. However, later on, the middle-aged man from the Palace of Gods of War arrived. He led a powerful team and joined forces with the other rank 6 sects to fight against the Morong family. Hence, the current situation was created. Divide equally? You're too greedy. Morong Ching snorted. We were the ones who discovered this place. I admit that you were the ones who discovered it. However, do you think you have the ability to take it all for yourself? The middle-aged man said coldly, even though you have the true Phoenix Imperial Jade Seal and can fight against us, what about the others? You should know that our team is formed by the alliance of other top forces. In terms of numbers and combat power, we've already surpassed the Morong family. If we really fight, I'm afraid you won't be able to gain any benefits. Hearing this, the cultivators from the Morong family looked gloomy, and Morong Ching's eyes flickered. Indeed, this was not wrong. This was because, in terms of combat power, Morong Ching could use the true Phoenix Imperial Jade Seal to fight against the rank 7 honorable. However, Morong Ching couldn't care less about the others. As for the other rank 6 honorables and the rank 5 honorables, their opponents far outnumbered the Morong family. This didn't mean that the Morong family was weak. It was just that they weren't facing a single power, but an alliance of several top forces. No family would be able to fight against such a lineup. However, Morong Ching shook her head firmly. It's impossible to divide equally. If you're not willing, then let's fight. She was very determined. Even though they had fewer people, she had the true Phoenix Imperial Jade Seal, a peerless treasure. Coupled with her bloodline power, she was confident that she could suppress her opponents. Hence, she wouldn't agree to their demands. Just as the two sides are confronting each other, and the atmosphere was tense. Lin Xian and Zhao Shui quickly arrived nearby. Then their hearts trembled and they revealed looks of shock. Chapter 1124. This was because the situation was more complicated than they had imagined. Just the number of people on both sides had already surpassed the Shin family. Moreover, what shocked them even more was the treasures in front of them. The value of the items inside had far exceeded the value of the treasure vault they had obtained previously. High-grade spirit stones. Zhao Shui was shocked. There are also fragments of Earth-class treasures. Her eyes were burning with excitement. Lin Xian, on the other hand, was staring at the beautiful purple figure in the crowd. It is indeed Qing Qing. Lin Xian took a deep breath. He did not expect to meet Murong Qingqing at this time. Moreover, she did not seem to be in a good situation. Just as Lin Xian and Zhao Shui arrived, the battle in front of them broke out again. As the two sides did not come to an agreement, they started fighting again. This time, the battle was not as gentle as before. In front of such a peerless treasure, everyone had lost their minds and fought with all their might. Of course, the most intense battle was between Murong Qingqing and the 7th level supremacies opposite her. This was because the outcome of their battle would ultimately determine the outcome of the battle. Among these peerless experts, Murong Qingqing was the most outstanding. Although she was the youngest, her combat power was the strongest. Murong Qingqing held the true Phoenix Imperial Jade Seal. Every attack she made was as powerful as an ancient divine beast. Ordinary 6th level supremacies could not even get close to her. Only a powerful 7th level martial honorable would be able to contend against it. However, even so, after a few exchanges, those 7th level supremacies were still injured. Damn it, this girl is clearly not a 7th level supremacies. But she is using the true Phoenix Imperial Jade Seal to display such powerful combat power. Humph, using the true Phoenix Imperial Jade Seal consumes a lot of energy. I don't believe that her bloodline power can last for so long. The pink lady gritted her teeth and said, Murong Qingqing's powerful combat power not only shocked the people from the Palace of Gods of War, but also shocked Lin Xian. He'd never imagined that she would actually be like him. Even though she hadn't attained the 7th level of the Exalt realm. She was able to erupt with a battle strength that wasn't inferior to a 7th level Exalt realm expert. What kind of artifact is that Imperial Jade Seal? It's so powerful. I've never seen her use it before. Lin Xian muttered to himself. You know her? Zhao Shui asked. Zhao Shui was also shocked by the combat prowess of the lady in purple. However, she did not expect her to be acquainted with Lin Xian. Not only do we know each other, we're old friends. Then what do you plan to do? Attack? Zhao Shui asked. Of course we have to take action. However, we can't do it directly. Otherwise, it's very likely that we'll be besieged by numerous 7th level venerables. I think we can use another method. We won't directly confront the 7th level venerables, but we can still disturb those people. Oh, what do you want to do? Zhao Shui asked. Simple, Rob. The corners of Lin Xian's mouth curled up, and his eyes shone brightly. Without needing Lin Xian to say more, Zhao Shui already understood what he meant. Then, the two of them looked at each other and quickly attacked. At this moment, the scene in front of them was very chaotic. However, the area near the golden hand bone was not occupied by anyone. No one touched the treasures there either. However, compared to the treasures outside, the two sides fought fiercely for them. However, because the Palace of Ares had more venerables, they gradually suppressed the Murong family. The Palace of Ares and the other rank 6 sex martial artists were overjoyed when they saw the Murong family being suppressed. Although this was the periphery of the golden hand bone, the treasures in this place were extremely precious. It was enough to make them extremely excited. However, in the next moment, their expressions changed and they all screamed. This was because the treasures had mysteriously disappeared in front of their eyes. F***CK, my purple thunder bamboo. Damn you! Who stole my prized artifact? This place isn't haunted, is it? Could it be that the ghost of that ancient expert who passed away is here? When these words were said, everyone's hair stood on end. This was because the scene in front of them was too strange. They did not see anyone make a move at all. However, the treasures disappeared in front of their eyes, one after another. This made them think that the ancient masters were not completely dead and that there were remnants of their ghosts causing trouble here. Nonsense! Where did the ghosts come from? An old venerable who was at level 6 sneered. How can there be ghosts? Someone must have done it secretly. Humph! Whoever dares to steal from our palace of gods of war, he's dead meat. Although this old man shouted coldly and comforted the surrounding disciples, he himself was not very confident. This was because even he did not know what was going on. They did not discover it because the person in this area was the snow-white little monkey. With the strangeness of the small, worn-out bull, these people could not have discovered it at all. However, it was different in another area. This was because Zhao Shui was doing it in that area. Zhao Shui was the one who was openly robbing. Therefore, she was discovered the moment she made a move. Where did this thief come from? How dare he steal from us? He's courting death. Furious roars rang out one after another, accompanied by a terrifying and monstrous power. It was obvious that the powerful cultivators over there had made a move. However, no matter how strong these people were, they were only at level 6 and could not do anything to Zhao Shui. Amidst the boundless violent energy, a white figure flashed continuously like a celestial being from outer space. Above her head was a strange and mysterious virtual sky eye. Every time she made a move, a treasure would disappear. This strange scene directly attracted the attention of the level 7 venerables at the front. Immediately, the faces of the people from the palace of Ares darkened. This was because they originally had the advantage over there. If no one caused trouble, those treasures would definitely be theirs. But now, someone dared to steal from them. This was snatching food from the tiger's mouth. The people from the Morong family were also surprised. They did not expect that someone would dare to make a move at this time. However, they soon rejoiced in the misfortune of others. This was because, according to the original situation, they might have been chased out of this area. Now that someone made the palace of Ares suffer, this was naturally good news for them. However, when they caught sight of that white figure, they were stunned for a moment. The reason for that was because that figure was too young. She seemed to be about the same age as the Morong Chingcheng. However, the aura she emitted was extremely terrifying. It was obvious that the young woman in white had reached level 7 exalted. Regardless of whether it was the Morong family or the Palace of Ares that were shocked by such a young level 7 exalted. Especially the middle-aged man and the pink-clothed woman. Their pupils constricted in extreme shock. Even though the pink-clothed woman appeared to be in her 30s, her actual age was already several hundred years. She could be said to be a true senior. As for the white-clothed woman before them, she was clearly a real young woman, and she was only in her 20s. It could be said that it was extremely rare for someone to reach level 7 exalted at such an age. Thus, everyone was extremely shocked. Chapter 11:25. However, due to their strength, no one present dared to say anything. But now they were exposed by a young man in front of everyone, embarrassing them and putting them on the spot. Humph, cut the crap. You were the one who snatched the treasure just now, weren't you? Kid, you're quite bold. How dare you snatch something that the Palace of Gods of War wants? The middle-aged man shouted sternly. Thank you for the compliment, Senior. I've always been bold. Lin Xian shrugged and said indifferently, You. Hearing Lin Xian's words, the middle-aged man's eyes widened and his body trembled in anger. He did not expect Lin Xian to admit it so openly. This made him unable to say the threatening words he was prepared to say. The pink lady beside him also said, coldly, Kid, since you've admitted it, that's great. Hurry up and hand over the thing you snatched, and I can let you live. I'm sorry. I hate it when people threaten me. If you beg me nicely, I might give you some. But now I'm afraid it's impossible. Lin Xian said indifferently. Hearing this, the surrounding cultivators had strange expressions, while the Morong family laughed. Now, they could tell that this young man was obviously mocking the two seventh-level supremacies. On the other hand, the people from the Palace of Gods of War were furious and glared at Lin Xian. This was especially true for the two seventh-level venerated cultivators. They were so angry that their bodies were trembling. They wanted nothing more than to capture Lin Xian and chop him into pieces to vent their anger. The originally chaotic scene was temporarily quiet because of Lin Xian's appearance. This was because everyone was stunned. They had never seen anyone who dared to mock the two seventh-level supremacies. This was simply a heaven-defying act. Who is this kid? Does he want to die by doing this? Yeah, he's too bold. Judging from his cultivation, it seems that he's only a fifth-level supremacy. What? A fifth-level supremacy? Are you sure? Hearing this, everyone was stunned. Then, many people went to check Lin Xian's cultivation. The next moment, everyone was dumbfounded. The reason for that was because they were able to tell that Lin Xian was truly only a fifth heavenly layer exalted realm expert. Everyone's mouths twitched when they heard the news. They couldn't believe it. A fifth heavenly layer venerable realm cultivator dared to slap a seventh heavenly layer venerable realm cultivator? Moreover, there were two of them at once. Did he not want to live anymore? After all, the gap between the fifth heavenly layer and the seventh heavenly layer was extremely huge. It was like the gap between an ant and a dragon. There was an insurmountable gap between the two. Thus, they were completely unable to understand why the other party dared to do such a thing. Even the warriors from the Morong family were stunned. Although the newcomer had slapped the palace of Ares in the face and made them feel good, the other party's strength surprised them greatly. Of course, there were exceptions, and that was Morong Qingqing. She didn't think so. She had known Lin Xian for so long, but she had never seen Lin Xian suffer a loss. Now that the other party dared to do such a thing, it naturally meant that the other party wasn't afraid of a seventh heavenly layer venerable at all. As if sensing Morong Qingqing's gaze, Lin Xian also turned his head and winked at her. This scene was seen by many people from the Morong family. Young miss, do you know him? The white-haired old lady beside her asked. Humph, he's Lin Xian, Morong Qingqing said. What? He's Lin Xian. The old lady was also very surprised when she heard that. She took a few more glances at Lin Xian. She was no stranger to that name at all. That was because, from the information obtained by the family, Lin Xian was quite close to their young miss. Moreover, the two of them seemed to have a close relationship. This made the Morong family pay special attention because Morong Qingqing's status was extremely noble. Moreover, she had the atavistic bloodline in her body. It could be said that she was extremely special. They would not allow Morong Qingqing to be too close to other men. That was because a woman like Morong Qingqing was destined to have an extraordinary life. It was impossible for her to marry an ordinary man. Therefore, the Morong family was particularly concerned about Lin Xian. Many people had even investigated his background. However, Lin Xian's identity and background seemed to have been erased. Those people only found out that Lin Xian was unusually talented and had outstanding combat ability. Moreover, he seemed to be highly regarded by Senmu College. They could not find out anything else. The martial artists of the Morong family did not think highly of such a person. That was because there were too many people with good talent. However, there were very few who could grow up and become peerless powerhouses in the end. Moreover, Lin Xian did not have a strong background. Therefore, they did not want Morong Qingqing to be too close to him. However, there were a small number of people who disagreed. Based on their observation, although Lin Xian's cultivation was relatively weak, his combat ability was outstanding. He was always able to defeat people of a higher level than him. In recent years, he had not lost at all. Moreover, he was an alchemist who could refine grade 7 pills. His future was limitless. Therefore, they did not object to Lin Xian being together with Morong Qingqing. However, those who supported this were in the minority in the Morong family. That was the current attitude of the Morong family towards Lin Xian. Of course, Lin Xian did not know that. That was because he did not walk up to stand with the Morong family. That was not his goal. His goal was to disrupt the scene and steal the treasure. Kid, you're too presumptuous. Hand over the treasure obediently, and I'll give you a quick death. Otherwise, you'll know that it's not that easy to die even if you want to. The pink lady's voice was cold. She had never been teased by a junior like this before. Therefore, her murderous intent was strong. She was ready to kill the detestable kid in front of her. You'll have to go through me if you want to touch him. Zhao Shui snorted coldly. She activated the eye of the void sky and looked down. That cold eye appeared in the sky. It was like the eye of an evil god that had crossed time and space. It was extremely strange and terrifying. Many warriors felt their hearts tremble and their scalps go numb when they sensed the aura in the sky. Even the middle-aged man and the pink lady had serious expressions. This young girl's strength was not inferior to theirs at all. Moreover, the eye of the void sky in the sky was too strange. Even they felt a chill in their hearts. Damn it, where did this girl come from? Why does she have such an evil technique? The two of them could not figure it out because they could not guess which sect Zhao Shui came from. At that moment, Lin Xian, who was behind them, spoke. Just as well, I'd like to experience the strength of a seventh heaven supremacy. With that, he slowly drew the ancient sword on his back and walked forward with firm steps. Everyone was stunned when they heard that. It was too shocking for a fifth-layer Martial Highness Realm kid to say something like that. Moreover, it seemed that he was not just saying it. He was probably going to make a move very soon. As expected, when the long sword was completely unsheathed, Lin Xian waved his arm and slashed out a ray of sword qi. Everyone's scalps went numb. They did not expect that he would really dare to make a move against a seventh heaven supremacy. Chapter 11:26. Seeing this, everyone felt their scalps go numb. They didn't expect the other party to really do what he said and attack a seventh heaven supremacy. You're courting death. The seventh heaven supremacy from the palace of gods of war was enraged. How dare a fifth heaven kid act so presumptuously here? This scene enraged him. Kid, you're too presumptuous. Let me deal with you. Meanwhile, on the side of the Divine Battle Palace, a young man with a cultivation of the sixth-layer Martial Highness realm stepped forward and threw a punch forward. Green mist surged with a terrifying aura. In the blink of an eye, a huge fist was formed and punched forward like a demon. You're not qualified. Lin Xian sneered. Indeed, in the next moment, the Palace of Gods of War Youth was sent flying by the shocking sword qi. I've said that you can't do it. Let your elders do it. Lin Xian's expression was cold and domineering. On the other hand, the Palace of Gods of War's people were also gloomy, especially the two seventh heaven supremacies. Their brows were furrowed because Lin Xian's strength was beyond their imagination. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. This time, the middle-aged man didn't let anyone else do it. Instead, he stepped forward himself. He waved his arms, and wherever he passed, huge balls of lightning would appear in the sky, flickering in the air. In the end, 10 lightning balls were formed and shone with a dazzling light. They formed a circle in the sky and slashed toward Lin Xian. Terrifying and powerful energy exploded in an instant. Endless lightning flashed and spread in all directions. The power of this lightning wave was too strong. Just the aftershocks alone could kill a sixth heaven venerable realm cultivator. Facing this terrifying attack, Lin Xian's expression turned serious. He held the Lone Star sword tightly and activated his newly learned secret technique, Bloodthirsty Frenzy. In the next moment, the blood in his body burned. He was like a furnace in the sky, erupting with powerful energy. Shocking sword chi was slashed out by him, whizzing past, instantly destroying all 10 powerful lightning pearls. Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned. This was because not only had Lin Xian survived, he had even blocked the attack of a 7th-level venerable. This was beyond their imagination. At the same time, Zhao Shui also attacked and started fighting with the lady in pink. Behind them, the Morong family saw this and quickly asked, "What should we do?" "Attack," Morong Qingqing said without hesitation. It was obvious that Lin Xian was helping them. If he didn't make a move now, then what was he waiting for? Morong Qingqing activated the True Phoenix Imperial Jade Seal and quickly joined the battle. Lin Xian, on the other hand, used the Great Dragon Sword Spirit and Bloodthirsty Frenzy at the same time. He erupted with incomparable fighting strength and quickly bombarded the middle-aged man. Even though the middle-aged man was a 7th-level venerate, he could not withstand the combined attacks of Lin Xian and Morong Qingqing. Thus, he was forced to retreat again and again, and even suffered quite a few injuries. Attack with all your might and injure him severely. Don't give him a chance. Lin Xian transmitted his voice to Morong Qingqing. Morong Qingqing nodded and activated the Imperial Jade Seal in her hand with all her might. In the next moment, the True Phoenix Imperial Jade Seal emitted a blazing light. A phoenix was born from the flames. It was like a dream, and terrifying flames filled the sky as it pounced on the middle-aged man. On the other hand, Lin Xian also used his Earth-rank martial art, Gale Lightning sword technique. The Lone Star sword in his hand rapidly enlarged in the air and was filled with a terrifying aura. The spiritual energy in the air gathered and intertwined on the sword, forming mysterious patterns. In the next moment, he waved the gigantic sword and slashed at the middle-aged man. "Block it for me." The middle-aged man shouted anxiously and spat out a shield from his mouth. It was a blue shield that was extremely simple and unadorned. It was his strongest defense shield. In the face of such a stunning attack from 2 young experts, he had no choice but to take out the shield to defend himself. However, even so, he was still sent flying and spat out large mouthfuls of blood. This was because Lin Xian and Morong Qingqing were too powerful at that moment. They were equivalent to 2 7th-level honorables attacking the middle-aged man forcefully. No matter how powerful the middle-aged man was, he could not block the simultaneous attack of 2 7th-level honorables. After sending the middle-aged man flying, Lin Xian and Morong Qingqing did not stop. They went in front of the pink lady again and attacked quickly. The pink lady had already sensed the situation on the middle-aged man's side. When she saw Lin Xian and Morong Qingqing rushing over, she was instantly frightened. Her strength was comparable to the middle-aged man's, and she could not block the combined attack of Lin Xian and Morong Qingqing. Moreover, she had Zhao Shui on her side. There were 3 7th-level honorables. Without any hesitation, the pink lady turned around and fled immediately. However, Lin Xian did not intend to give her the chance. The current situation was created with great difficulty. It would not be easy to severely injure these 7th-level honorables in the future. In the next moment, he summoned his Ice Lotus martial soul. Endless ice power spread in all directions, trying to stop the Pink Lady. Zhao Shui also activated her void sky eyes and froze the entire space. On the other side, Murong Qingqing also attacked aggressively. The power of 3 7th-level honorables slammed into the Pink Lady and sent her flying. In an instant, 2 7th-level honorables were injured. The people from the Palace of Gods of War felt their scalps go numb, and their faces were filled with despair. It was too terrifying. The experts that they were so proud of were severely injured in an instant. They could not react at all. However, one thing was certain. Without these 2 7th-level honorables, the Palace of Gods of War would not be able to resist the Morong family. I'm going to kill you. At this moment, the middle-aged man who had been sent flying flew back again. He was covered in blood, and his hair was disheveled. He looked extremely miserable. However, at this moment, the aura on his body was extremely violent. It was obvious that he had been caught off guard by Lin Xian and Murong Qingqing. Now that he had reacted, he was extremely furious and was prepared to attack with all his might. The Pink Lady was in the same situation. The two of them joined forces and attacked Lin Xian and the others again. However, Lin Xian's lips curled into a cold smile. This time, he did not continue to tangle with the middle-aged man and the others. Instead, he said to Murong Qingqing, "We'll depend on the Morong family from now on." After saying that, he and Zhao Shui flew in the direction of the golden arm bone. "You're courting death. Come back." The middle-aged man roared angrily, but he was stopped by Murong Qingqing. "Stop them and chase them away." Murong Qingqing led his family's martial artists and quickly intercepted the middle-aged man and the Pink Lady. The two sides started fighting again, and shocking energy exploded. "Chase! You must bring those 2 brats with you. Don't let them escape." The middle-aged man shouted angrily. Instantly, countless martial artists from the Palace of Gods of War went crazy and charged towards Lin Xian and Zhao Shui. However, Lin Xian and Zhao Shui were too fast. Ordinary martial artists like them could not do anything to them. At this moment, another long howl rang out, and it came from behind at high speed. "Thief! I didn't expect you to be here. Let's see where you can run to this time." Chapter 11:27. At this moment, another earth-shattering voice rang out, accompanied by a terrifying energy. Before the voice finished speaking, a figure had already appeared in front of everyone. It was an old man with long hair and beard. He exuded a powerful aura from head to toe. "It's the Shun family's elder." Many people were shocked when they saw the old man. They did not expect the Shen family to be here as well. Sure enough, behind the old man, there were many disciples of the Shen family, and they were rushing over at high speed. At this moment, the middle-aged man from the Palace of Ares, who was in the middle of a fierce battle, shouted anxiously, "Fellow cultivators from the Shun family, come and help me." The purple-robed old man from the Shin family looked at the fierce battle and laughed loudly. "Fellow cultivators from the Palace of Ares, don't panic. I know that you have been fooled by that kid. I will capture that kid now." With that, he laughed loudly. Then his figure flashed like lightning and flew in the direction of the golden hand bone. It was obvious that he was not here to help the Palace of Ares. He was here to get a share of the loot. "Damn that old bastard!" The middle-aged man cursed angrily when he saw the scene. Murong Qingqing's expression also darkened. She said to the people behind her to stop him. Now that she was fighting with the people from the Palace of Ares, she did not have the strength to care about anything else. However, the purple-robed old man was different. He was also a 7th heaven supremacy. He was very powerful. If no one stopped him, he would not be able to keep the golden hand bone. Indeed, the purple-robed old man from the Shin family moved very quickly. Although the cultivators from the Morong family attacked, they could not completely stop the purple-robed old man. Soon, the purple-robed old man was getting closer and closer to the golden hand bone. Little girl Morong, if we continue fighting, the item will belong to someone else. The middle-aged man gritted his teeth and said, Morong Ching Ching snorted. However, she quickly stopped and chased after the golden hand bone. The middle-aged man and the girl in pink moved together. In an instant, all the experts gathered towards the golden hand bone. Those guys finally made their move. Lin Xian quickly shuttled through the crowd, collecting treasures from time to time. At the same time, he glanced ahead, and a cold smile appeared on his face. After leaving the battle, he didn't immediately go after the golden hand bone. Instead, he went to several other places to snatch treasures. That was because he knew that the golden hand bone was extremely extraordinary. If he were to go there, he would most likely become the target of everyone's attacks. Therefore, he had to wait. He had to wait until everyone was fighting for the metal hand bone, and then he would take advantage of the chaos to snatch it. Moreover, there was another reason, the Crimson Dragon. This guy was extremely interested in the high-grade spirit stone and constantly urged Lin Xian to help him obtain it. Now, Lin Xian was shuttling through the crowd, preparing to seize the high-grade spirit stones. That brat is over there. Quickly stop him and don't let him get close to the treasure. When the disciples of the Palace of Gods of War heard Lin Xian's voice, they were instantly at daggers drawn. However, they couldn't stop Lin Xian at all. Soon, Lin Xian used the illusory demon steps. His movements were like a ghost, and he instantly shook everyone off. In the next instant, he arrived at an area. There were 2 high-grade spirit stones here. This was also the only area that didn't have the golden hand bone, but had high-grade spirit stones. There were also a few 6th heaven supremacies participating in the fight here. When they saw Lin Xian's figure, they were also on guard. However, although Lin Xian was powerful, they wouldn't give up on the high-grade spirit stones so easily. After all, such treasures couldn't be found in the outside world. You're courting death. Seeing Lin Xian rushing down arrogantly, the few old men below roared angrily. Faint divine flames danced on the surface of this old man's body, exuding a powerful energy. In his hand, there was a huge snow-white saber. It looked very simple and unadorned. In the next instant, the snow-white saber exploded with shocking power. When the saber was slashed out, the entire void trembled, and the surrounding mountains and earth cracked rapidly. Clang! Lin Xian pulled out the Lone Star sword and quickly slashed forward, colliding with the white saber. Light shone in all directions, and divine power burst forth. The old man with the divine flames on his body kept retreating. Blood flowed from his arm, but his eyes were filled with shock. Although he had seen Lin Xian's ferocity before, he only knew how terrifying he was after exchanging blows with him. This sword was too terrifying. It was so powerful that he couldn't resist it at all. One had to know that he cultivated the purple demon divine elephant technique, which was known for its immense strength. Although he was only a 6th heaven supremacies, in terms of strength he could even compete with the 7th heaven supremacies. Moreover, the white saber in his hand was also extraordinary. It was made from the ivory of the ancient, mutated, double-headed elephant. The combination of the two allowed his strength to reach a terrifying level. However, at this moment, he couldn't defeat a young 5th heaven supremacies. This made him feel extremely defeated and terrified. After pushing the old man back, Lin Xian stretched out his hand and used the dragon catcher hand to grab a superior grade spirit stone. At the same time, the Crimson Dragon didn't stay idle. It also used a divine power and formed a dragon head to bite the other one. The two of them attacked at the same time. After succeeding, Lin Xian quickly left, while the Crimson Dragon laughed like an old monster. Then, under everyone's shocked gazes, it swallowed the superior grade spirit stone in one gulp. Crunch, crunch, crunch. That crystal clear, incomparably precious high-grade spirit stone was chewed on like a bean by the dark red divine dragon, making crunching noises. Not bad. The crimson dragon licked its lips, savoring the taste. The surrounding people were stunned, especially those of the older generation. They were so angry that their beards were trembling. That's a superior grade spirit stone. It's extremely precious. Even a king doesn't have much of it. How can you eat it like it's candy? How can you eat it so casually? Shouldn't you take a bath and worship it devoutly for 49 days before it can be absorbed? The older generation figures were in a mess. They felt as if 10,000 alpacas were running through their minds. Ah, you despicable worm, give me back my superior grade spirit stone. The older generation figures finally couldn't take it anymore. They went crazy and charged at the Crimson Dragon while roaring. The Crimson Dragon, on the other hand, crawled into Lin Xian's sleeve and shouted, "Kid, run!" Lin Xian was speechless. He didn't expect the Crimson Dragon to eat the superior grade spirit stone so directly. However, it made sense when he thought about it. That guy's cultivation had already surpassed the Venerable Realm, but it had fallen behind. It shouldn't be a problem for it to eat a superior grade spirit stone. In the next moment, his body swayed and he quickly retreated, distancing himself from the older generation figures. Behind him, the old men were yelling angrily, but they couldn't catch up to Lin Xian at all. "Kid, let's make a deal. Give me the superior grade spirit stone in your hand." The Crimson Dragon stared at Lin Xian and drooled. Chapter 11:28 F***CK. Lin Xian rolled his eyes. To think that this guy was actually trying to get his hands on him. No way. Lin Xian rejected him decisively. "Kid, you won't be able to use this for the time being. Why don't you give it to me? It's very useful to me. Moreover, if my cultivation level increases, it'll be of great help to you. If you really can't do it, I'll teach you a few more special inscription formations." "You said it." Lin Xian smiled. He had long been interested in the formations in Rouxalong's hands. However, Rouxalong had only taught him some ordinary formations over the past few days. For ancient formations like space teleportation, this guy refused to teach him. However, it seemed that this guy was willing to do anything for the sake of the upper spiritual stones. "Are you serious?" Lin Xian asked. "Of course." The Crimson Dragon patted his chest and said, after receiving Rouxalong's affirmation, Lin Xian handed over the upper spiritual stones in his hand. When Ruffian Dragon saw this, he grabbed it and put it into his mouth. Then he gobbled it up like he was eating candy. "Ha, this feels great." Ruffian Long's face was filled with excitement as he shouted loudly, "Let's go! Let's take a few more pieces." Seeing the Crimson Dragon so excited, Lin Xian was speechless. "Do you think this is cabbage? Take a few more pieces? This is one less piece to eat." At this moment, Zhao Shui appeared beside Lin Xian in a flash. The two of them looked at each other and laughed. This time they had gained a lot. As expected of the remote sky secret realm, there were indeed many treasures. The gains from this trip were comparable to decades or even centuries of hard work in the outside world. It could be said that the biggest winners so far were Lin Xian and Zhao Shui. "Damn kid, don't let me catch you." Seeing that his subordinates did not get much good stuff, the middle-aged man from the palace of Ares roared in anger. However, he did not pursue Lin Xian. Firstly, he had seen Lin Xian's strength. Unless he went all out in a battle of life and death, he would not be able to take him down easily. Moreover, he was now close to the Golden Handbone. The things here were the best, far surpassing those in the periphery. As long as they could snatch more things from this place, they could make up for their losses. Damn it, that brat is too hateful. Once I'm free, I'll definitely not let him off. The pink woman's expression was also cold. I'm guessing that the reason why he's so powerful is because he has grasped some sort of secret technique that allows him to increase his battle prowess for a short period of time. Otherwise, with his cultivation of the fifth heavenly layer, it would be impossible for him to contend against us. However, this kind of secret technique has a limit or a huge price to pay. It can't be used for long. As long as we deal with him patiently, I don't believe that this kid will be able to unleash the power of the venerable car forever. When his combat power drops, I'll make him wish he was dead. The pink woman was emitting a murderous aura. The middle-aged man from the Palace of Gods of Battle said in a deep voice, "We'll talk about this later. The most important thing now is to find a way to snatch the things around the golden hand bone. No matter how strong Murong Qingqing is, it's impossible for him to take everything for himself. Besides, the Shen family is also trying to get a share of the loot. We're still the strongest if we work together." "You want the treasures? It's not that easy," Murong Qingqing harumphed coldly. He activated the imperial seal in his hand and unleashed a stunning phoenix, which charged downward with a boundless sea of flames. The attack caused the ground to tremble. Many treasures were even knocked flying in all directions. Damn it! The middle-aged man and the pink woman cursed when they saw this. Initially, these treasures were gathered together, so they could easily obtain them if they worked together. However, now that the treasures were knocked flying, the two of them were forced to split up and fight for the treasures on their own. This greatly weakened the strength of their team. How could he not be enraged when he realized that the advantage he had was now completely gone? Although the two of them were furious, the surrounding cultivators were shocked and overjoyed. Originally, they didn't have a chance in front of a 7th level venerable. However, it was different now. These treasures were actually knocked flying and scattered in all directions. This gave them a chance to snatch them. This was an extremely rare opportunity. Therefore, these people didn't even think about it, and all charged forward. For a time, the scene was extremely chaotic. However, although the treasures were good, they weren't so easy to obtain. For example, although the fragment of the Earth-rank treasure was broken, the aura of the Earth-rank treasure still remained on it. The aura was extremely powerful. Ordinary venerables couldn't withstand it at all. And the golden hand bone was even more terrifying. There was no flesh and blood, only a few bones left. However, the pressure emitted from it was extremely terrifying. It even carried a trace of a king's pressure, causing the scalps of the 7th level venerables to go numb. In fact, one of the 6th level venerables rashly advanced, which caused the golden hand bone to resist. Immediately, a powerful pressure surged out and turned the 6th level venerables into a bloody mist. Seeing the scene, everyone gasped and felt their scalps go numb. They knew that this golden hand bone was definitely something left behind by a king. Moreover, it didn't look like an ordinary king. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been able to exist for so long and still have such a terrifying aura. It's been dead for so long, but it still has such a strong attack power. It's probably a king who specializes in the metal element. The middle-aged man from the Palace of Gods of War frowned. Then he said to the group behind him, "Be careful and don't get too close. This kind of person is extremely powerful and terrifying." "What? Single element? Metal element?" Hearing this, everyone was stunned. Then realization dawned on them. No wonder it was still so powerful after being dead for so long. Just its aura alone could crush a 6th level venerables. It turned out that it was an ancient cultivator who specialized in the metal element. There were many elemental attributes in the world, but the metal element was undoubtedly the most powerful one. Moreover, ancient martial artists specialized in cultivating a single attribute, which was different from the present. Very few of them specialized in a single element now because they didn't have the corresponding cultivation technique. Even if they did, the level of those cultivation techniques wasn't high enough. Therefore, if they specialized in a single element, it was very likely that they wouldn't be able to compete with other martial artists in terms of combat power. Therefore, most of the current martial artists cultivated multiple elements together. However, facing the golden hand bone now, no one dared to be careless. Specialized in the metal element, Lin Xian's eyes lit up when he heard these words. I don't have the metal element yet. If I can comprehend it, my attack power will increase again. Lin Xian stared at the golden hand bone with a burning gaze. He had already decided that he had to get it no matter what. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.